Hi, welcome back guys. This is your sensei, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Naruto Met Hinata at a Bar. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. My blankets once again held me willingly captive. No, not the chirping birds or the sunlight peeking in from the blinds were a match for its cozy embrace. I had just about convinced myself that maybe missing one day of work wouldn't be so bad after all. I flipped over onto my side, slipping back into a deep sleep, when I suddenly realized there was a lot more space in my bed than I remembered. This was a game I had played several times before, yet I still felt that sinking feeling in my gut. My eyes peeled open and I sat up with a deep sigh. As I expected, a handwritten note on a scrap piece of paper laid next to me. Let's see what his excuse is this time, I muttered to myself as I lazily picked it up. Sorry princess, I had to leave for work. I have the early shift today, but I promise I'll make it up to you. Let's have dinner together at that restaurant you like. My treat. I shook my head. Yeah, fucking right. I crumbled up the note, chucked it across the room, then flopped back against my pillow. He did it again. I couldn't remember when these exchanges began. It was all a blur. One day he was my childhood friend, and then suddenly we're tearing each other's clothes off in a drunken frenzy. Pre-existing feelings muddled, and before I knew it I was in love. If only I could blame that on the alcohol. Soon one lonely drunken night turned into two, then three, and now I wasn't even sure what we were anymore. All I knew was I was waking up naked and alone a few too many times a week, and these little notes were getting old. My eyes met with the clock on my nightstand. 7 a.m. I guess I was going to work after all. Crimson Corp, one of the largest and booming electronics and engineering companies in Japan, and it didn't have that title for nothing. The workload was heavy and strict. Everyone was expected to be on their game, the textbook definition of perfection. To be honest, I wasn't sure how a stuttering and clumsy mess like myself even managed to get a job here. You look like you definitely need this, my coworker and best friend said, handing me my daily dose of caffeine. You have no idea. Thanks, Tenton, I responded, just before taking a sip of my usual vanilla latte with a double shot of espresso. The office was loud and bustling as usual, people yelling orders to one another, phones ringing, papers flying, the type of environment that just made you want to move fast and get your work done ASAP. By your under-eye bags and inside-out shirt, I think I have a clue, Tenton said as we made our way to our desk. I looked down at myself and cursed. My shirt was not only inside out, but wrinkled, stained, and to top it off I was wearing mismatched socks. I rubbed my eyes. If that clue starts with the letter K, you would be right. I then threw my briefcase on my desk and collapsed in my chair with a defeated sigh. I could feel Tenton giving me that really face expression, and I didn't dare look back at her. I knew a scolding was on its way. Again. You know, Hinata, I really didn't want to be right about it this time, but good lord, you never seem to prove me wrong. I mean, how many times must you go through this with this idiot? My lecture was interrupted by a deep male voice that commanded my attention. I felt myself trembling with anxiety. There was no doubt who the voice belonged to, and it certainly wasn't a voice I could afford to ignore. I looked up at the big CEO himself, Sasuke Uchiha. He stood tall with a professional stature over my small cubicle. He was deathly handsome, sharp features, shiny black hair, broad shoulders, but his stern face and cold personality was off-putting. His energy reeked of intimidation, a great tactic in the business world, maybe not so much in the social world. Hyuga, drop whatever it is you're doing and follow me to my office. I need your assistance, he said, his brow ticking with impatience. Tenton gave me a knowing look as I let out a sigh. My day was about to get even better. Now Hyuga. Why yes, of course, sir. Like the good lapdog I was, I followed him to his office, feeling a bit angry at myself for allowing him to continue to talk to me like that. At 23 you'd think I'd have a little more confidence, a little more self-respect. But after being kicked out of your own home at the age of 13 and being bullied basically your entire childhood, let's just say my self-esteem and confidence wasn't exactly developed properly. Oh, and he was my boss, let's not forget that. I need you to submit these forms to the board of directory for me. I have a meeting to attend, Sasuke said, facing the big bay window of his office rather than me, like he hadn't a care in the world. No problem, I can do that for you, sir. Also, when you get a chance, I need you to mail out that contract for the new building in China. Of course, yes, sir. Oh, and that reminds me. Lunch. Get Kana in room 7 to schedule lunch with the Akihitos. I have some business plans I need to discuss with them. Yes, sir. And Ms. Hyuga, he finally turned his head to look at me. His onyx eye stared back at me with a sternness that made you want to stand up straighter. Don't disappoint me. My voice got caught in my throat as a rush of adrenaline hit my body. I wouldn't dare, Mr. Uchiha, I responded sheepishly. Good. He then approached the door I was standing next to. I was quick to move out of his way. Is it my coffee? I didn't even have a chance to respond when he removed the only thing that was going to get me through my shift from my shaky hands and placed it to his lips. His face contoured in disgust. Ugh, what is this sweet garbage? Black, Hyuga, I like my coffee black. My soul nearly left my body when he then tossed it into the trash bin. Guess I'll have to grab some during the meeting. This girl, he muttered under his breath, leaving me alone in his office. Someone get me a crown because I was the queen of pushovers. And then he threw it into the trash. I was now in the bathroom dabbing my eyes with toilet paper while Tenton listened to me rant. Hey now, don't cry, he's not worth it. "He may be our boss, but that guy's a real ass Tenten-cood." She patted my shoulder and gave me a cheerful smile. "Don't worry, I'll buy you another coffee." I blew my nose loudly and threw my tissue away. "I'm not even his assistant. God, I hate this job, I hate being this way, and I hate my life." "Hinata, I keep telling you, you can't allow yourself to be anyone's doormat even if it is your boss. You've got to speak up. I know it's tough, but you're gonna keep getting taken advantage of. Better than that." I let out a sigh. I knew very well she was right, but it was a struggle. I'd been a yes sir, yes ma'am girl since I was little. Rather than a daughter, I was a servant. I weighed on my father's hand and feet from a very young age, and when I was of no use to him, out of his house I went. I ended up living with other family members until I was 18. I can barely remember his face. Being a doormat in a way was how I survived. It was engraved into my very being. Tenten looked down at her watch and then back at me. "We should go, we have a lot of work to do." I nodded my head and followed Tenten out of the bathroom. "Hey Ten, wanna get dinner later?" I asked. Tenten looked at me with a sorry smile. "I'm sorry, I can't, I've got a date." "Rain check." "Yeah, that's fine." That's when he flashed in my head along with his note. There was tightness in my chest. Was I a fool for secretly hoping he'd call? Even though he had proven to disappoint me several times, I wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, he'd keep his promise to take me out tonight. It was stupid and went against everything. After all we just talked about me not being a doormat. But he was special. Sure, he could be a flake, and sure, where we stood wasn't exactly black and white, but I couldn't deny the way he made me feel. For the first time in a long time I felt needed. I felt beautiful, like I wasn't just out of the boring office bimbo. I felt bad going against my best friend's wishes, but she just didn't understand our relationship. Sure, there's a ton of bad, but when it was good, it was really good, and I didn't want to just throw away one of the only things that made me feel like my father wasn't right about me. Luckily, the extra workload made the day go by faster, though I was exhausted. I stumbled to my blue car and pulled my hair free from its bun. I stared back at the building, looking at each letter of its sign with disdain. Crimson Corporation. I had been an office clerk there for just a little over a year. I told myself it would be a temporary thing until I finished my degree in education, but when that didn't work out, here I stayed. It was a tough job, but it paid the bills. It seemed like a theme for me. Things not happening the way they were supposed to in my life. Constant disappointment, deferred dreams, a vicious, never-ending cycle. I couldn't say with confidence I was living. I was surviving. I had just started the engine of my car when I felt my phone vibrate in the pocket of my pencil skirt. I pulled it out and read the message very quickly. Text messages weren't something I got very often. In fact, phone calls or any type of messages was a rare thing for me. "Hey, you still on for dinner tonight?" I cursed myself for the smile that creeped on my face after reading his message. "Don't respond right away. Make him wait. After all, he got what he wanted from you and left you alone yet again. You're not a doormat. You're not a doormat." My fingers seemed to have a mind of their own. Within seconds I responded, "Yes, I am." My heart was loud against my chest as the 3 dots popped up on my screen. He was responding, and fast. That was a good sign. "Great, I'll pick you up at 6. I felt heat flood to my face and I smiled so big it stung my cheeks a bit. I slammed my foot on my gas pedal. There was no denying it. I was an idiot. In my apartment I was quick to shower. I had my favorite radio station blasting through my speakers. I practically danced as I sprayed that fruity perfume I knew he liked on my body. He didn't forget, he'd keep his promise. I was so happy. Hair, makeup, and half an hour later I was ready. I struggled to zip up my little black dress, reaching behind my back like I had an itch I could not scratch. Looking in the mirror, I spun around, pleased with my choices. I left my hair out and wore black stilettos to match my figure-hugging dress. It wasn't my type of look if I was being honest, but I knew it was his, so I was willing to compromise. This outfit needed something else. Lipstick. I pulled out a red tube label, velvet in fancy letters. Then I spread its bright red contents against my lips. Leaning back, I examined myself in the mirror. Again, it wasn't me. I looked like I was getting ready for my shift at the red light district, but anything tight and form-fitting was bound to catch his attention right. I could hear my phone ringing from my bedroom under the bubbly pop music echoing from my bathroom. I half jogged over to it in excitement. He was early. He was never early. "Hello," I said, trying to contain my excitement. "Hey." His voice sounded nervous and groggy. My stomach dropped and a sickening feeling of nostalgia fell over me. "What's wrong?" I blurted out. I knew bad news was coming and I didn't want to play this suspenseful silence game. "I fucked up, I'm an idiot." "Talk to me," I responded with a frown. I slowly sat on my bed and began taking off my shoes. I already knew what was going to happen. I forgot I promised Shino and the guys I'd watch the game with them tonight. I heard him inhale sharply through his nose as if he was mad at himself. I rolled my eyes. Here we went again. "Hinata, I'm sorry I keep doing this to you and you're always so nice about it too. I'm a horrible guy and even a worst friend." Friend. Now that hurt more than the cancellation. "Hinata, it's okay, don't worry." I could kick myself. I was doing it again. I caught myself in the reflection of my mirror. Tears were threatening to spill out of my eyes. "I had a long day at work, I'm sort of tired anyway," I said, forcing myself to chuckle. "Oh, that damn Crimson Corp had you slaving away, huh?" He responded teasingly. "Yeah, but I'm strong, I survived." I smiled despite the tears falling onto my bed sheets. "That a girl. You show them what's what." "I've gotta go." "Next time, okay." I swallowed hard at those damned meaningless words. Sure, okay again, I'm sorry, talk to you later. I didn't respond because I knew he wouldn't. I hung up and threw my phone across the room. It missed the sofa completely and landed face down on the ground. I was sure it cracked. I yelled out in frustration, releasing all the tension in my body. I was tired of this pathetic excuse for a life. I was 23, living like a 60-year-old. I had no boyfriend, barely any friends, and nothing to look forward to. I wanted to be different. I wanted to change. I wanted to start living. I hopped out of my bed and put my shoes back on. Fine, he couldn't take me out, and sure, Tenton had also denied me, but I wasn't going to spend another night crying in my PJs, sinking into my self-pity. I needed to go out. I didn't need to be with someone to have fun. I would find fun myself. Slinging my purse over my shoulder, I picked up my cracked phone and headed out the door of my condo. In my car, I zoomed down several streets, with no idea of where to go. Probably should have did a little research beforehand. Feeling like a complete idiot, I rested my head on the steering wheel of my car when I got to a red light. Maybe I should go home, I said to myself. The loud laughing of a group of girls passing my car caught my attention. They walked arm in arm into a bar called Nindo. I had never seen it before, yet judging by the amount of people going into it, it was popular. I decided I might as well check it out since I couldn't think of anything else to do. I found parking and with an anxious heart entered the bar. Inside screamed old Japanese aesthetic, from the mini waterfall filled with koi fish to the scrolls and old ink paintings that decorated the walls. It was like I stepped into a time machine. I liked it. The loud clinking of my shoes and tight dress brought a lot of unwanted attention to me as I wandered around. It was surprisingly big for a bar. After I received a couple whistles from some drunk guys, I decided it was time for me to sit down. All that confidence I had as I was getting ready had completely disappeared. Settling into a stool, I tried to regain my composure. Hello, what can I get for you, sweetheart? I looked up at the bartender. She was gorgeous. Her eyes were such a deep brown color that they almost appeared red. She wore red lipstick to complement them, and her jet black hair framed her pretty face. I struggled for words, thrown off by this older woman's beauty. I'll have an old-fashioned, I said meekly, coming right up. I wondered if he would have skipped the game if I looked like her. I could hear the guy a few stools away from me snicker with his friend. Now that's a bit strong, you sure you want to get that? Poor thing probably just Googled a drink, I heard him say to his friend, who laughed in response. Don't worry, if she gets too drunk I'll be there to comfort her afterwards, the other man said, clinking his drink with the other drunk. Assholes. It was a pretty decently strong drink that I've had several times, but hearing them laugh did something to my self-esteem. Maybe coming here was a bad idea. I mean, forget the drink, look how I was dressed, add alcohol to that, and who knew how this night would end. Second-guessing myself, I opened my mouth to change my mind on the drink, but someone spoke before I could get a word out. Hey, mind your own fucking business, will ya? She can drink what she wants. It's a bar. It was like he read my thoughts. My eyes met with the back of my savior. He was tall, really tall. His hair was unruly and blonde, sticking out in all directions. He turned to look at me. God, he was good looking, and he had the bluest eyes I had ever seen in my life. You're just mad because a pretty girl dared not to look in your direction, he said, winking at me. Every orifice of my body blushed. The drunk slammed his drink down on the counter in an angry fit. What was that, boy? Why don't you come here and say that, he slurred. The blue-eyed beauty looked back at him like what he said meant nothing and began to approach the man. That's when the bartender stepped in, grabbing the blonde shirt. Stop it before I throw both of you out. No fighting at my bar. The blonde smiled cheekily at the bartender. Sorry, Kurenai. He then settled down into the seat next to me. Then I'll have what she's having, he said, pointing at me with his thumb. Our eyes met and I felt electricity shoot through my veins. Some people are real jerks, huh? Are you okay? He asked. For like the 10th time today I struggled to open my mouth. I managed to squeak out a why, yes thank you. He smiled and I noticed 2 dimples appeared under some whisker-like marks he had lining his cheeks. He somehow got more handsome the longer I looked at him. That's good. The 2 old fashions were presented to us, and wanting to desperately get rid of the anxiety sitting at the base of my stomach, I quickly brought mine to my lips. I felt his eye on me as I chugged the drink. Rough day. Rough was a nice way to put it. I nodded my head. The liquor warmed my stomach and throat and I felt my mind clear. I immediately wanted another. I raised a finger to the bartender, signaling one more. Glancing at my handsome neighbor's drink, I saw he had barely touched his. Instead, he was looking dead at me, with concern written all over his face. You know, I get you don't know me, but sometimes talking to a stranger is just what you need when you're down, he said. He reached over and grabbed a few napkins and handed them to me. I didn't even realize I was crying. So, Miss Stranger, if you're down, I'm all ears. So you're friends with benefits, my blonde companion said, raising a brow. I was 3 drinks in and gone. Everything that left my mouth was pure word vomit at this point, and probably real vomit in a bit. I was sad and drunk, and one thing led to another, and now we have this sort of relationship. I have no complaints about the sex part though. It's wonderful. I swirled around the remaining liquid in my glass, obsessed with how the light hit its amber surface. I abruptly turned to the mystery man, smiling like a mad woman. Don't worry, I won't do that to you. I don't sleep with all my friends. Why the fuck did I just say that? Oh, what a shame. After all those drinks I thought I had a chance, he said, taking a sip of his own drink. Kidding. My eyes widened at his response. I found this really funny for some reason. I laughed, covering my mouth so I didn't spray my drink all over him. He looked at me with gentle eyes. There you go, smile. That's all we can do during the tough times. Though I can't tell if I'm a comedian or you're completely shit-faced right now, he said with a laugh. I loved the way he looked at me. It was like I was expensive china. Fragile yet beautiful, like he wanted to protect me from all that could damage me. Or it was all in my head and I had to chill out with the drinks. You're in a tough spot. Look, personally I think you should run for the hills. This guy's not looking too great, he said, taking a sip of his drink. But hey, if you're really insistent on being with him, maybe what you need is to be a bit braver. You have to talk to him and set things straight. But how? How do I become brave? How do I let go? I said, lifting my glass to finish off my drink. He grabbed my wrist, preventing me from doing so. It surprised me, but I found myself enjoying his touch. Well, let's start by stopping this. You can't drink away the problem. It's a temporary high, but tomorrow you're gonna feel like shit. I nodded my head. He was right. You need to push yourself. Now, I'm not saying go all out and become a different person overnight, but you need to take baby steps at least. He pointed to my phone that was laying on the counter. Let's start with that guy giving you so much heartache. I looked at him like he grew a third head. Text him, ask him how the game was, he said. Now I was even more confused. We'd just spent over an hour talking about me constantly being taken advantage of, and now this guy wanted me to text the man who hurt me like nothing happened. Either I was really drunk or he was. He must have read the worry in my eyes, because he smiled and placed a hand on my shoulder. Again, I know I'm a stranger, so this sounds a bit weird, but you're gonna have to trust me. After glancing at my companion one last time, I picked up my phone and sent the message. My phone buzzed about a minute or two later. It was great. I'm sorry I couldn't take you out tonight, but I hope you had a good evening despite everything. Did you get some rest? My heart stung as I showed the message to the mystery man. A devilish smirk creeped onto his face, unsettling me. What was he up to? Perfect, now time to stir things up. He looked at me, motioning for permission to use my phone. I nodded and he unexpectedly slung an arm around my shoulder, pulling me close so I could see what he was texting. The faint scent of his cologne hit my nose, sending my senses into overdrive. I could barely focus on what he was typing, I was so nervous. Actually, I went out to have some fun of my own. I'm at a bar right now. I met a new friend. Wait a second, I said after reading the message. For some reason panic hit me from out of nowhere. What, it's not like you're lying, the blonde replied. But this next part leaves room for interpretation. What was this next part he was talking about? He held my phone up high and pointed the screen towards himself, confusing me further. Count with me after Ikayats, I said. Just then the camera of my phone flashed and what he was planning became as clear as day to me. He looked at my phone proudly. That worked better than I thought, and we even got my good side. I too looked down at my phone, but rather than excitement I felt a wave of doom hit my body. In the photo his arm was around me and both of us seemed to smile as if we were having the best time in the world. Aside from my smeared lipstick and the little mascara marks on my lids, it was a pretty decent picture. Why, you're not gonna send that picture to him, are you? I questioned. No, I'm not going to do anything. He handed my phone back to me. But you are. Every fiber of my being rejected the idea. What if he thought I was seeing other people and this ruined any chance of he and I becoming a couple? Everything I did to get out of the friend zone with this man would be tarnished. Little Miss Stranger, I need you to come back to earth and completely erase any negative thoughts entering your head right now. I looked at him, waiting for him to explain why I shouldn't just delete this picture off my phone. You said yourself you're tired of nothing changing and you want to be brave. You've got to take risk, stick your toe in the water and try things. I listened to each word he said like he was God himself. That guy you're after feels comfortable because he knows there's no one else after you and you're not after anyone. So he gets what he wants, says a few sweet words, then puts you into his back pocket. But, he said in a sing-song tone, you send that picture and oh, little Miss Stranger has other men interested in her, and boom, panic mode. His face expressions and hand gestures melted my fear away and I couldn't help but giggle watching him. You've got to play the field, girly. Make him realize he's got a real prize, and if he's not careful someone could snatch you up. He sent me another wink that disabled me. You're making me feel like you're the one planning to snatch me up. Oh God, I said that out loud, didn't I? He smirked at me, taking in my words. Hey, who knows, give me the okay and I might just be. I nearly choked on my own breath. I was too drunk to determine whether or not this was another one of his jokes. All I did know was that I wasn't indifferent to his charm and needed to keep my mouth shut before things got messy. I turned a new shade of red and I quickly changed the subject. Okay, I'll do it. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding in. What? He said in a suggestive tone. The text. I'll send the text, I quickly corrected, making him laugh. Go on then, just wait, I know what I'm talking about, he said. With the message sent, I grabbed my companion's drink and swallowed it in one go, patting my cheeks to ready myself. My new blonde friend was completely thrown off guard but laughed. Seriously, you've got to stop that, he said. Minutes passed by and those dreaded 3 dots disappeared and reappeared more than the man of the hour did my bedside. He's not replying. It's like he begins to type something but then changes his mind. I was again nervous. I was hoping and praying I didn't just fuck myself over. What should I do? I said, looking at Blondie with pleading eyes. He placed a hand on my head and messed up my hair a bit. He was smiling again and there was a twinkle in those mesmerizing eyes of his. I was then calm for some reason, like he had casted a spell on me. Relax, he's probably mad. He doesn't know what to say in response. He'll break and want to call you or come see you or both. Don't worry, let him stew. Don't text him for the rest of the night, and if he doesn't respond at all today, sleep on it. He'll be putty in your hands, trust me. He then took out his phone and began to call someone. In the meantime, I'll call you a cab. No way you're driving home in this state. He was so sweet. I had to admit this guy was throwing me off a bit. Most guys around his age would probably be trying to figure out a plan of how to get me out of this bar and into their bed rather than give me advice. But he was wise and chivalrous. Why was he trying to help out a complete stranger? I smiled at the ground before looking to him again. You've been so kind. I'm a stranger, yet you've done so much for me. Why? I asked him. Let's just say we're a lot more similar than you think, he responded. There was something sad that appeared in his stare, but vanished before I could question it. Plus, who could leave such a pretty girl by herself to drown in her sorrows? My smile grew bigger at his words. Thank you. Is there anything I can do to repay you? I asked. Well, there was that thing we were talking about earlier. Something along the lines of snatching up, he said, rubbing his chin. Anything but that, I replied as I turned red yet again. He laughed. Kidding. The handsome blonde put his phone in his pockets and looked at me with more seriousness than I've seen all night. Just be happy, little Miss Stranger. Be strong and listen to my advice. Do that and I'll be satisfied. Was he an angel or what? How drunk was I? Was this even real? The cab should be outside, I'll walk you, he said. I nodded and got up from the seat. Walking together, I studied his features. I never wanted to forget him. His kindness, the sound of his voice. I wanted it permanently engraved into my head. A little Miss Stranger, I get that I'm good looking, but if you want to stare, you still have that picture of me. Man, alcohol sure does make me stupid. Sorry, I said. His laugh was airy and warm, the kind that made you want to laugh along with him. That too I wanted to remember. Reaching the cab, he opened the door for me. It was only then that I remembered I never got his name. Get some rest, okay? He said softly to me as he closed the door. Wait, I never got your name, I said as the car began to pull away. I couldn't hear his response. I was only able to see his mouth movements that I barely was able to make out. I slumped into my seat in disappointment. Who knew if we'd see each other again? Miss, your address. The cab driver snapped me out of my thoughts. Oh yes, sorry. I wobbled out of the elevator and held onto the walls of the hallway. Man, was I going to pay for this in the morning. I limped to the door of my condo, careful to not face plant onto the carpeted floors. My eyes widened in shock to see that someone was waiting for me. Kiba. Yes, the man of the night sat hugging his knees in front of my condo door, nearly fast asleep. God, what took you so long? I was about to start setting up camp. The amount of emotions that rushed through me was unfathomable. He stood up and stretched his sore muscles as I tried to wrap my mind around what was happening. The mystery man's words flashed through my mind. I can't believe he was right. What are you doing here? I finally said. He looked at me somewhat bashfully before approaching me slowly. I was worried about you. I missed dinner with you and then you're out having drinks with random guys? Who wouldn't worry? He gave me a quick hug and rested his hands on my shoulders. I'm really sorry, Hinata. Are you okay? Did anything happen to you? He said, looking down at me. You've got to play the field a little girly. The mystery man's voice echoed in my head. I smiled, remembering his words. And no, I had fun. This guy I met was really nice. He even paid for my drinks, I said, looking up at him innocently. I could see tension in his stare as Kiba looked back at me. He was really sweet, I added. Kiba's hand slowly slid off my shoulders. I began to worry a little when he looked away from me. Was he? That's good. I thought something bad might have happened to you. It's dangerous to go to bars alone. You should be careful next time, he said, still not looking at me. I gritted my teeth in irritation. Did he really just come all the way here just to say that? He could have called or answered my texts, for God's sake. So much for being jealous. This was hopeless. All I wanted to do was take my drunk ass into my condo, climb into my bed, and end this crappy day. Thanks for worrying about me, Kiba. I'm okay. Honestly, I'm just gonna go inside and head to bed now, I said. Kiba nodded after mumbling an okay. He stepped to the side and I furiously dug in my purse for my keys. I felt his eyes on me and it took everything in me not to look back at him. Why was he just standing there? Go home. There was nothing left to see here. I finally opened my apartment door and took a step in. Good night. Suddenly his arms wrapped around me from behind. I yelped in surprise. Kiba. There was no response. We stood frozen in the doorway of my condo with the only sound being my heart drumming against my chest. I hated the way he made me feel. I hated the way he pressed his nose against my neck, taking in my scent, how his strong forearms encircled me tightly, how his body molded against me so perfectly. It made me weak and he knew it. Okay, I'll admit it. His warm breath tickled my neck. I shivered. He must have felt me, because he pressed me even closer against his body. His voice was nothing but a whisper now that picture it. I felt his arm shift and suddenly one of his hands was sliding along the side of my hip. It was hard to breathe all of a sudden. What? I said in between breaths. It made me mad. He grabbed a handful of my thigh and I bit my lip so hard I thought it would bleed to keep myself from letting out what I could only describe as a "you're turning me on" squeal. A familiar feeling hit the bottom of my gut. I knew what he wanted, but I refused to give in. I skillfully slipped from his grasp. We now faced each other and he had that damned look in his eye. Like I was a meal he wanted to devour. I forced myself to laugh, trying to get rid of that tension that filled my condo. Why would it make you mad? I asked innocently. Like I said he was nice, he didn't do anything to me. I walked around pretending that this conversation wasn't that important to me. I heard footsteps approach me. Come on, Hinata. Don't make this harder for me, he pleaded. I furrowed my brows at him. Kiba, you're confusing me. What's wrong? He was standing in front of me again, my back against my wall. You know that we struggled to get his words. That we've been friends, I said with a small angelic smile. Okay, I was really pushing it now. And no, I mean sure, we're friends. I mean, aren't we? I was becoming impatient. He clearly was still hung up on this so-called friendship we had, and I was becoming sad all over again. This was so infuriating. What does this have to do with the picture? Do you not want me to be friends with that guy? I said, throwing him some bait. Yes, I mean no. Kiba slapped a hand against his forehead in frustration. I let out a sigh. I reached down and began pulling off my heels, completely defeated. I was tired, drunk, and now disappointed. It was time for bed. Kiba, I'm really tired. Maybe we can talk about this tomorrow. I walked away from him again. And don't worry about that guy. He was cute and very sweet, but it's not like I'll ever see him. My words were literally trapped in my throat when Kiba ran over and grabbed my arm. I turned to him and then his lips crashed against mine. I was so caught off guard I stumbled backwards and my back hit my bedroom door. His kiss was wild, desperate. He held my face in place with his rough hands, while his tongue explored my mouth. I tore away, catching my breath. I was beet red. Kiba, what the hell? He leaned forward, trying to continue what he started. But I put my hand to his lips. He understood I wanted answers. Stop talking about him, he said, breathless. I stayed here and waited for you for hours, and he's all you talk about. Something I've never felt before surged through my body in that moment. I couldn't help but smile cheekily, staring back into his dangerous eyes. Are you jealous? I asked, surprising myself at the boldness of my statement. Unbelievably, insanely jealous, he said, biting my bottom lip. I stupidly gave in yet again, slowly pressing my lips against his, as if hearing he was jealous was enough. It would never be, because I knew deep down I wanted more than this. I wanted all of Kiba. I wanted him to be by my side always, to take away the pain with his laugh and chastised kisses, to make me feel whole, because waking up to empty sheets in the morning wasn't cutting it anymore. But I was still so weak. I let him unzip my dress, and it wasn't long before that bedroom door was open and my bed was used for something other than sleeping. When I woke up the next day, for once I was wrapped in the arms of the man I loved instead of my lonely cotton blanket. No notes, no IOUs. The regret in my stomach was eased a bit. Maybe we were taking a step in the right direction, despite me not listening to the advice given to me. Aw shit, I overslept, damn. Now I'm gonna be late. Kiba threw the blanket off himself and rushed to gather his clothes. He left not saying a word to me. I was seriously starting to contemplate if my brain was just in my skull for decoration. I woke up in both an apartment and a bed I didn't recognize. What was worse, I wasn't alone. I sleepily looked at the back of my naked neighbor and cursed under my breath. I did it again. I slowly sat up in the bed, careful not to make too much noise. The last thing I wanted to do was wake her up. I lifted up the sheet and held my breath when she stirred a little bit. It was only then that I realized I was completely naked too. Fuck, where was my clothes? It was from there I began a game of I Spy. Naked edition. With each article of clothing, a memory of last night came with it. I told myself I'd stop drinking. I became a different person when I did. Reckless, emotional, lustful. But it was a certain someone who always sent me into alcohol's comforting arms. It numbed my pain. It was nice not feeling so lonely. I chuckled at my hypocrisy. I spent the night giving advice about how drowning your pain out with alcohol wasn't healthy, but after that girl left I did exactly what I preached not to do. Suddenly I heard my phone ringing. I panicked, looking all over the place. I saw a light coming from under the bed and nosedived to the floor after it. I looked at it and frowned slightly. Great, it was her. Somehow the redhead laying in the bed did not wake up, and I did a little happy dance as I exited her room. Hello, I whispered into my phone. I struggled to put my coat on, holding the phone between my cheek and shoulder. Where the hell are you? Her voice was so loud I was sure the woman in the other room could hear her. Ouch, is that how you greet someone first thing in the morning? Screaming into their ear. I said back, screaming, I should gut you like a pig for the stun you've pulled. You're late, Naruto, 20 minutes might I add. I'm making excuses for you, but the floor managers are starting to become impatient. Try to keep this job at least, she lectured back. Fuck, I completely forgot I worked today and I just got this job. What an amazing start to my day. Aw shit, I forgot, Zach, I'm sorry, I'm coming now. You better. God, I can't believe you, she replied. She hung up the phone. I hated it when she was mad at me. I had some serious making up to do. And just to add some topping to my shit cake of a day, just as I was about to leave, guess whose head popped out of her bedroom door. Leaving so soon. Her voice was laced with desperation. Looks like I had a leech for dinner last night. I froze in place before slowly turning to her. Time to turn the charm on. Hey, good morning, beautiful, I said, approaching her. She was so short she had to look up at me when I stood in front of her. I crouched slightly and placed a small kiss on her forehead. When I looked her in the eyes, I could tell she had already fallen under my spell. I was trying to sneak out and get us breakfast before you woke up, but you ruined the surprise. She seemed to light up hearing that. Guess she didn't hear the phone conversation. Man, I'm an asshole. You were great in bed and a gentleman. Where have you been my whole life, she said, rubbing my biceps. I have to get the fuck out of here and fast. I have many other talents. I played with a lock of her hair, and if you're patient I'll be happy to show you them when I get back. I kissed the strand of hair I was playing with. Her tongue poked out of her lips at my promise. I walked away from her backwards, leaving her dazed in her doorway. Oh, I never did get your name, she said dreamily. I smiled at her. Juniku, I said. I couldn't help but chuckle at her puzzled face expression as I closed the door. What? I couldn't pass for a Juniku. I was out of there in no time. The only issue being my lack of car. I was pretty sure I left it at the bar, so I had to call a cab. To leave hospital, I said to the cab driver. I caught my reflection in the car's mirror and cringed. I hoped my messy appearance didn't scare the patients. Inside, the hospital was busy as usual, people running around to different places, family members at the front desk asking questions, the smell of sanitizer. I found myself constantly questioning what a guy like me was doing working at a place like this. I didn't exactly fit in. But once I saw that pink hair and those dazzling green eyes, all my worries flew out the window and I remembered. I could see her down the hallway. She was talking to someone in green scrubs. By the sternness of her voice I could tell she was giving some directions. Check his temperature and get back to me immediately, I heard her say. Her eyes then caught mine and a frown crept onto her face. Oh, that's right, she was mad at me. You, she said, pointing at me. I've got a bone to pick with you. Here we go, I muttered to myself. She stood before me, arms crossed and scowling. Her hair was tied up in a bun and she wore a white lab coat over her scrubs and a stethoscope around her neck. What can I do for you, doc? I said, bowing slightly and smiling. You look stunning as usual. Flattery will get you nowhere, Naruto, she said, unimpressed. And you look a mess. Are you trying to make me look bad? She lectured. She ran a hand through her cotton candy hair. Was it weird that even her anger made me feel all hot inside? Her soft hands then suddenly squeezed against my forearm. Come with me, she said, dragging me along the hall. We stopped in front of a supply closet and I couldn't help but smirk at her. Doc, please, if you wanted to have your way with me, there's better places than the supply closet, I said cunningly. Another word and you'll join the cadavers in the basement, she snapped back. She opened the door and went in. I tried to follow her, but she shoved me so hard I almost fell. The strength on this girl was unreal. She came back out with a pair of scrubs. Change into these. She then reached into her pocket and pulled out a bag that had a disposable toothbrush and toothpaste in it. And use this. I was going to give it to one of the nurses to give to a patient of mine, but you need it more. You were drinking last night, weren't you? Your breath reeks of tequila. Suddenly I couldn't look her in her eye. I took the scrubs and plastic bag from her hands and gave her a reassuring smile. Let me take you out for your lunch break, I said, not answering her question. She narrowed her eyes at me. As an apology for fucking up today, you did get me this job, I feel bad. That's all, I promise, I explained. It sucked ass that she wouldn't let me take her out under any other circumstance, but an opportunity was an opportunity. I smiled when I saw her face soften a bit. Fine, as long as you're paying, she said, smiling slightly. Wow, as long as it's me opening my wallet, you're okay with it, I said, pretending to be offended. She laughed. God, how I loved her laugh. Watching her eyes shut and her pretty lips separate to expose her bright smile gave me chills. Well, you did offer, come get me around 12. You'd better hurry, you've got patients to transport, she said, turning her back to me. And Naruto, she said. Yes, Sakura-chan, I responded. Don't be afraid to talk to me. Instead of drinking, give me a call. You know you can rely on me, right? She was wrong. I couldn't rely on her for this. After all, how could you receive comfort from the person who had broken your heart in the first place? Yeah, I know. I loved her. She knew this, but I was beginning to give up hope she'd ever return my feelings. It was like she was toying with me. Every time I thought we were close to becoming something, she'd push me away. Time flew by surprisingly. I must have rolled around at least 20 old people in wheelchairs by the time 12 o'clock came around. Man, did they love to talk and repeat the same stories, but today I didn't mind, because I had a lunch date with Sakura freaking Haruno. A rare thing for me, there was always one of our mutual friends tagging along, pulling the good old-fashioned grand slam cock block. Being alone with me made her a bit uneasy, especially since I've been so much more forward with my feelings lately. I didn't need to be a psychologist to figure that one out. I would be lying if I said it didn't hurt, but I tried to ignore that soreness in my chest and focus on the positive. I needed to enjoy the moment while it lasted, and who knew, maybe something good would come out of this. I couldn't wait. I sprinted down the hallway looking at each corner to locate her. And when I did, nothing could erase the smile on my face. I crept quietly down the hallway to sneak up on her, and when her back was turned to talk to a patient, I pounced. It's lunchtime, I yelled into her ear. She let out a shriek as her pen and clipboard flew out of her hands and onto the floor. The patient and her family bursted out laughing as Sakura quickly picked up her supplies. She glared at me in annoyance. Well, at least the patient found it funny. You nearly gave me a heart attack, you idiot, she grumbled, punching me in the shoulder. Yeah, I've been told my good looks have that effect on people, I said back with a smirk. Sakura rolled her eyes, making me as well as our mini audience chuckle. Please just fill out those forms and she should be free to go, Sakura said, turning her attention back to the family. The man who looked like the patient's father smiled at her warmly. Thank you, Dr. Haruno, you've been a great help. The little girl gave her a wave. Yes, my arm feels all better. Have a good lunch with your boyfriend. Sakura's face flushed slightly red. He's not my But alas, Sakura was left with her hand extending outwards and her voice lost as the family walked away from her. "What a great kid," I said. She turned to me and was immediately angered by the smile on my face. "Stop that. Let's go," she said, stomping away. And with that, lunch began. I was really looking forward to some ramen. It was on my mind since I woke up this morning with a hangover bigger than the head of the girl I woke up next to. It was the only thing that could get me through the rest of my shift. I had it every lunch, but of course Sakura wasn't having any of that. "We're going to that burger place down the street. If we're gonna eat junk for lunch, I'd rather it be that," she said, leading the way. I wanted to die. "Oh, I get it, you hate me and you're trying to deprive me of everything I love, huh?" I said, dragging my feet behind her. I wanted to say including herself since she wouldn't give me her affection either, but I already had tried her patience enough today. "Naruto, you eat ramen every day. I bet if we tried to draw blood from you, broth would come out." "So, that sounds amazing," I said, catching up with her. She rolled her eyes at me again. "You're too much sometimes." Once we got there, I nearly ran out screaming. Sakura had failed to mention this so-called burger place was vegetarian. I thought I would start mooing just looking at the menu. Sakura didn't even end up ordering a burger. She got some fries and some green puke-looking drink. Why come to a burger place and not get a burger? She was lucky I loved her. I would never understand girls. She ranted for what seemed like hours about work and stress and how bitchy her co-workers were. Surprisingly, I was entertained. She had this way about her that grabbed your attention. Her eyes would light up and along with her face expressions you could tell she was a storyteller at heart. By the end I didn't know who Maru was, but I agreed she was a bitch. "So what about you, Mr. Comedian?" she said. Damn, I was hoping she would just keep talking about her. I knew what she was going to want to talk about. Me. Why the sudden interest in me? Have I finally tickled your fancy? I half joked, trying to divert her attention. Her jade eyes pierced me with seriousness and my smile slowly faded away. "You've been drinking again. I've been your friend long enough to know what that means," she said, picking at her fries. "What's got you so down?" Her question felt like an assault. How could she ask me that question? Couldn't she see what she was doing to me? What she did to my heart? I smiled bitterly and took a bite out of a burger. It took everything in me not to spit it back out. It tasted like seasoned grass. I nearly choked getting my words out. "Well, you know, I told my friend that I've known for years that I was in love with her and she shot me down. So there's that." Damn it, I let it slip out. She looked at me like a deer caught in headlights. Was it bad that I found comfort in her guilt? "Naruto," she says, struggling to put her words together. "Oh, and I forgot to mention she slapped me too," I said, laughing sarcastically. She slammed her fist on the table in agitation and leaned forward. There was something sad in her stare. "Why, you kissed me," she said between her clenched teeth. I leaned forward as well, so I could reach her ear. I was bitter. No, angry at this point. "And you kissed me back," I seethed. Sakura quickly pulled back and crossed her arms. Her face was flushed. I leaned back in my chair and crossed my arms behind my head. "What does the truth scare you?" Her eyes sharpened at me. "You're not being fair, Naruto." She snapped back. How dare she? I give her my heart, she plays with it, then stomps all over it like garbage. And I'm being unfair. You know I have a lot over my head right now. I'm starting a new career, a new life. I'm busy, I barely have time for myself, and why you just spring this on me out of nowhere? What did you expect? Huh, she yelled. It was always the excuses, and I would fall for them every time. "Oh, I'm sorry if my feelings are a burden." I snarled back. Her hands were now in her hair. She didn't like when her back was against the wall. Being called out was something she couldn't deal with easily. I never said that, she defended. Her voice was soft now, like she was reflecting. I pushed her harder. "Of course not, because you know deep down that you feel something too," admitted Sakura. "Stop it," she yelled. All eyes were on us. I felt that pain I did last night and the night before. That self-hate, that loneliness that had haunted me my whole life. Suddenly sitting there was like sitting on needles. I stood up from my seat and slapped some cash down on the table. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have pushed you like that. You're right, it's not fair. But understand, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Through the boyfriends, breakups, the drunk stolen kisses you've been trying to forget. I've been waiting. I'm at my breaking point, Sek." She was quiet. She looked away, hiding her tears. "I still need more time to think about this." I heard her whisper. I turned my back to her. "You don't have any more time," I responded. I grabbed my jacket and stormed out of there. The rest of my shift was quiet. Real quiet. I wasn't expecting things to go down like they did at lunch. I've been trying to keep a tight lid on it, but I don't know, something just snapped in me. After work I knew exactly where I was going. Forget going home. It was quiet there too. Forget today, forget yesterday and tomorrow. Forget her. My eyes met with the flashing sign of the Nindo. A place where I didn't have to feel and could drown away all my sorrows. Life just had a habit of dealing me a bad hand. It was kind of funny actually. It always seemed like the people I was close to ended up hurting me the most. I smiled bitterly. Time to ease the pain. The rest of the day was a blur. My depression and all my life's problems went flying out the window with one sip, and when I opened my eyes again I was once again in a place I didn't recognize. Oh, thank God, I heard a familiar voice say. My eyes met with those of Lavender. "I was scared you wouldn't wake up. I was going to call an ambulance." A beautiful girl with dark hair and cream skin kneeled beside me. Her eyebrows furrowed with worry, she held my hand tightly in hers. "Seekin is speak. You drank a lot, do you remember anything?" she asked sweetly. My hand reached out and poked her cheek to make sure she was real. Little Miss Stranger. Then things faded to black once again. Today had started off pretty rocky. Of course I got a textbook of apologies and excuses from Kiba through text. And of course my stupid little heart forgave him. It was always like that with him, almost like a get-out-of-jail-free card. And it wasn't just because I had feelings for him. Kiba was there for me when no one else was. He accepted me, flaws and all. I really needed that after my dad abandoned me. His kindness is what saved me. So that was the Kiba I wanted to focus on. Even though what he was doing hurt me to the core, I still loved him. Was I stupid for it? Maybe, but I had hoped things would change. With no work to worry about today, Tenten came by and we went shopping and enjoyed lunch. I was halfway into a cinnamon bun when it dawned on me that my car was still back at the bar. So after our hangout session I asked Ten to drop me off at the Nindo and prayed I didn't get a ticket. Staring up at the sign brought memories flooding back. Even though I didn't listen to him, I would have to find a way to thank him if I ever saw that mystery man again. I told Tenten all about him and we both agreed he was like a fairy godmother of some sorts. I chuckle at the idea of such a handsome guy dressed up in a fairy outfit as I approached my car, which was ticketless, thank goodness. As I was entering my car I spotted the very man I was thinking of in my mirror, entering the Nindo. I was shocked. Here I was thinking I'd never see him again, but there he was. I guess he must be a regular. This was it. I had to thank him at least one more time for taking the time to comfort and take care of me. Who knew, maybe we could even exchange numbers and become friends. I locked my car door and followed him into the bar. Once I entered I noticed his behavior was different. He barely sat down before he was ordering tequila shots. Two of them, I heard him grumble. I approached him like he was a wild animal. Settling down in the seat next to him, I was able to finally look at his face. He stared down at the counter with such lifelessness in his eyes it frightened me. He was wearing the same clothes he was the night that I met him. Did he even go home? Excuse me, I said shyly. Do you all remember me? He barely turned his head in my direction. Oh hey, it's you, he said unenthusiastically. His shots were placed down and his attention immediately went to them. One after the other he chugged them like they were nothing. My eyes grew wide. 2 more Kira, he said to the bartender. Oh, I don't think that's a good idea, I let slip out. He would lose his liver if he kept up like this. He looked at me as if he had seen me for the first time. There was annoyance in his eyes. The bartender stopped her actions, awaiting further direction. Thanks for the concern, Miss Mystery, but I'm an adult, I don't need a babysitter, he said. He then signaled the bartender to continue. A mixture of embarrassment and irritation hit my stomach as I sat back in my seat. What was with the attitude? Sure, we were strangers, but I was just trying to help. He seemed lost, hollow, a shell of the wonderful man I met yesterday. Suddenly my mouth was moving on its own. I hate to pry, I know you barely know me, but you seem down. Did something happen to you? I said. He threw back another drink and this time he glared at me. I'm fine, he replied sharply. For some reason it didn't shake me. I was worried about him. He was so kind and helpful to me. All I wanted to do was bring him the same comfort he brought me. You're definitely not. Didn't you say drowning your sorrows in alcohol was a bad thing? If you need to rant, I don't mind listening. I smiled at him with sympathy. His face softened for an instant before his whole demeanor seemed to change. You're real stubborn, you know that, he said. His comment further scratched my self-esteem. Why yeah, well so are you, I said, surprising myself. His blue eyes widened before creasing as he began to laugh. He laughed and laughed for what seemed like forever. Was I a comedian now? Then his laugh and smile slowly faded. His voice became hoarse and his eyes glassy as he took a sip from his shot glass. Yeah, I'm real stubborn. Who'd want to be with someone like me? My heart clenched. Suddenly it was like I was sitting next to myself. I peeled his hand away from his glass and squeezed it tightly. Don't talk like that, I said. He looked at me for a long time. I couldn't tell if he was shocked, grateful, or a combination of the two, but I could feel it in my gut that it was fate that I was here tonight. Listen, I don't really do the whole talking about my feelings thing, he said, looking away. It never really pans out well for me, so it's better I keep this stuff to myself. Well, remember what you said. Sometimes you just need to talk to a stranger. I mean, what do you have to lose? You don't really know me and I don't you. I leaned a bit closer to him. And my best friend says I'm a great listener, I said in a whisper-like fashion. Slowly he smiled at me, even though it was a sad one, and then chuckled. Damn, I can't believe I'm actually considering this. He hesitated before slamming his hand on the table. What the hell, I guess I'll tell you. You're a stranger. He let it all out and I finally understood what he meant by we were similar. Like me, he too had someone he had feelings for. Though he refused to name the girl, he told me everything about their relationship. How they met briefly when they were 12, stayed in touch and ended up at the same high school. How she had the most prettiest smile in the world and how her jade eyes sparkled. How though she found him annoying at times, she always had his back and he had hers. It sounded like the perfect ingredients for love to blossom, but like me, life had other plans. Once they reached college, she made new friends, studied more, and their relationship seemed to be put on the back burner. Still, they'd met up every now and then and on some occasions took steps in the direction of a romantic relationship. However, her education and other priorities always came first. It was like she was purposely building barriers between them for reasons he couldn't understand. Still, he waited and hoped that one day he could be one of her priorities. His story hit so close to home I felt myself choking up. He seemed like such a confident man with no worries in the world, but he was holding all this in. Maybe it was good he got completely wasted like this. All that pain would have came out in other ways if he hadn't spoke about it. Why won't she be my girlfriend? I mean, what's not to like about me? I treat her nice, spoil her, is it that am I not good looking? He slurred. Okay, I take back what I said. He was too wasted. No one's ever complained about my face before he got up from his stool and lifted his shirt, exposing his rippling abs. And look, I go to the gym almost every day. I'm pretty fit. The one touch, it's rock solid. All eyes were on us and I began to regret not getting a shot myself. Okay, why you have nice body P, put your shirt down. I practically screamed. My blood pressure couldn't handle this. I was beet red. He sloppily sat back into his seat and stared me down with a satisfied grin. What? I asked. I just thought of a great idea. God, did I even want to hear it after what he just did? Let's get married, you seem nice and appreciate me. That way both of us will never be alone again, he said, clearly drunk out of his mind. He looked at me with seriousness before getting down on one knee. No, he wasn't. He wasn't about to do what I thought he was going to do and embarrass me. Mystery girl, would you do me the honor and make me the happiest man on the planet? And he said, presenting me a bottle cap from someone's beer. My anxiety was at its peak. People once again began to turn and look. No one hated attention more than I did. I had enough. Okay, that's enough. I put a hand over his mouth and pulled him to his feet. He stumbled onto me in his drunk stupor, but I quickly straightened him back on his feet. This man would be the death of me, but my morals meant more. Is that a yes? He said, swaying back and forth. You're drunk. Come on, let's get you out of here before you humiliate yourself and me any more than you've already have, I said, holding his shoulders so he wouldn't fall over. I looked over at the bartender. She looked back at me with sympathy. Don't worry, I'll put it on his tab, she said with a smile. I thanked her and dragged my nameless companion out of the bar. He wrapped an arm around me, singing a song loudly into my ear as we made it outside. The saying, no good deed goes unpunished, was never more true. When I want you, I in my arms. When I want you, and all your charms. Whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream, he sang, resting his head on my shoulder. Say, what's your name? He asked me. I scoffed. I doubt you'll remember it. I will, he said, then continued to hum to himself. Hinata, Hugo, I said as we approached my car. He sighed like the sound of my name was calming to him. Towards the sun. That's fitting, I like it, he responded. I wasn't sure if I should have let myself be flattered or ignored everything he said. I opened my car door and helped him sit in the passenger seat. Tonight you were my son, thank you, Hinata, I swore I heard him whisper, but he broke out into song again before I could ask him to repeat himself. When I feel blue, in the night, and I need you to hold me tight, he sang. I started my car and we were on the road. I asked him where he lived, but he shook his head. He seemed really lonely through all the alcohol. I'm not some crazy stalker, I swear, I said. Maybe he thought I would be at his doorstep every day. I don't want to go home, it's quiet, I hate the quiet, he said. In my chest there was a pain. I was about to do something brash, but my gut told me this strange man was harmless. It also told me he needed me in this moment. Then how about we sober you up at my condo, I said with my eyes glued to the road. I could tell he was looking at me. He probably thought I was going to try something. I was a stranger after all. I could be a pervert or a murderer. Actually, and never min. Okay. I glanced at him, to find him looking out the window deep in thought. The rest of the car ride was silent. After dragging him through the lobby into the elevator, with plenty of stairs might I add, we made it to my condo. Once inside, I remember just how messy it was and freaked out. Listen, I don't normally keep the place like this, it's been a crazy week, you know, I said nervously. But my drunk companion didn't seem to mind at all. He stepped over plastic bags and random pieces of clothing and plopped down onto my couch. He then took off his shirt and laid down like he owned the damn thing. I blamed his lack of manners on his drunken state. He didn't move for a long period of time. I assumed he was dead and ran over in a panic. But by the time I got there he flipped over onto his side, and that's when I realized he was fast asleep. Well, so much for sobering him up. I went into my guest room and tugged the blankets off the bed and returned to the living room. I gently laid the blanket over him. I smiled looking at his peaceful face, hoping his dreams were better than the day he had. Good night, stranger. NPOV. The rancid taste of whatever alcoholic concoction I downed last night stung my taste buds. I needed water ASAP. I forced myself up on my forearms. It was only then did I realize I had no fucking idea where I was. A feeling of deja vu hit. I did this already, didn't I? Hey, are you okay? I quickly looked in the direction of the voice that was definitely female. Oh fuck no. It was that girl from the bar. That really cute one with the boy problems. Little Miss Stranger, I said again. She ran around the couch with a bottle of water in her hand. Oh, thank God you're awake. Are you okay? Maybe I should call someone. Please try to keep your eyes open. My mind was racing. I couldn't remember anything from the previous night. Literally nothing. She seemed pretty comfortable walking around in her tank top and shorts without a care in the world. Which meant either I've been kidnapped and her crazy ass was going to force me to be her permanent therapist and keep me locked up in her closet, or be my drunk ass met her at the bar and we came back here and did the nasty. Was it weird that I preferred option 1? I would hate myself even more if I took advantage of her like that. And where the fuck was my shirt? "What's going on?" I said, and when she didn't respond I poked her. She came back to reality and apologized. "I'm sorry," she said, pulling her bangs back with her hand. "It's just I knew you'd forget my name." "I don't remember anything, lady," is what I wanted to say out loud, but I wanted to figure out what sort of situation I was in so I could make my grand escape. "I'm sorry. I was just drinking so much last night," I said very carefully. She shook her head and stood up. I couldn't help but notice how her chest jiggled. "So maybe option 2 wouldn't have been so bad." "It's okay. How's your head? You must have a massive hangover. How you drank last night?" she asked. I quickly snapped out of it. Now that she mentioned it, I did feel like shit. My head was throbbing. I grimaced in pain. She held the bottle of water in front of me and smiled. "Drink this. I've also made breakfast if you're hungry." She then walked over to the kitchen, and now my eyes were following the movements of her extra plump rear. "Okay, I had to get out of here. You're probably super confused." "Sorry, I guess I should explain," she said as she placed 2 plates of food down on the counter. I sat up on the couch and looked around for my shirt. "So last night I saw you go into the bar and I followed you in, and..." She turned around just as I was getting ready to open her front door to leave. The look of betrayal on her face did something horrible to my insides. Why was I such a dick? "Listen, I'm sorry for burdening you. I have no idea what happened last night, but maybe that's for the best. I'm an asshole for taking advantage of you like that, and you should hate me more for it," I said quickly. "Wait, what are you talking about?" she said. Despite everything, she didn't once seem angry or annoyed. I was just going to be blunt with her. "Last night, we had sex, didn't we?" I forced myself to say. The way she looked at me made me feel ridiculous. She covered her mouth as a snort escaped. It was a full-on howl of laughter after that. Was the idea of sleeping with me really that funny? A full 2 minutes went by of her just laughing at me while I stood by her door half naked. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping a tear from the corner of her eye. "It's just you were practically trying to escape. You were so scared." "See, come on, I know you don't know me, but I'm no predator." How was she not mad at me? "Your shirt and jacket are in the wash." Her cheeks slightly reddened. "No offense, but they reeked of alcohol. You took them off yourself in your drunken frenzy. That's why you're shirtless. After that you passed out on my couch." "Nothing happened, I swear." "Ooh, I completely forgot to consider option C, that I was a complete drunk idiot. God, I'm dumb. I'm so sorry. Here you are being so nice to me, and while all I was trying to do was escape," I said, running my hands through my greasy hair. She was probably gonna have to sanitize the whole couch now. "It's okay, you were drunk," she said, sitting down at her table. "Now please sit, eat something, and I'll tell you what happened last night." She pointed to a plate across from her very bashfully. Like me, trying the food she made was both exciting and scary for her. "She's so cute." I accepted her offer immediately. Breakfast was great. It was Western with scrambled eggs, bacon, avocado toast, and the best damn cup of coffee I've ever had. However, our conversation was just humiliating. I couldn't believe I opened up and told her all about Sakura. I must have sounded like such a whiny bitch. That wasn't me. I kept everything to myself so I wouldn't feel judged by others. But I felt no judgment coming from her. She looked happy even. She told me she wanted to help me like I helped her. But my past was so haunting. I couldn't allow myself for a second to become too comfortable. I didn't mind giving out the advice, but I still trusted no one. "You know, you're a real angel. I can't understand why you'd have boy troubles," I said, sipping my coffee. "The same could be said about you, though that snoring could drive away an army," she responded. I looked at her in shock. She smiled shyly and giggled. I found myself laughing as well. Where was this person that night at the bar? "You should speak your mind more often. You'd be a force to be reckoned with." She looked away a little sadly. "It's easier said than done. I don't know, I guess I'm just not good with people." I shook my head at her statement. "You'll get the hang of it. I mean, you're talking to me and I think you're great." She smiled and placed some of her hair behind her ear. "I think you're great too." There was this weird tingly feeling that washed over me, like a little schoolgirl who just got a compliment from their crush. There was this part of me that was screaming to run away now, but at the same time this girl was interesting to me. She suddenly pointed a finger at me. "You shouldn't let someone stomp all over your feelings either. I know it's none of my business what's going on between you and this girl, but don't let your kindness become your weakness like it is for me," she replied. She then took a sip of her coffee and I couldn't help but stare at her lips. What was I, 16? "Your feelings matter too. Open up more and keep saying what's on your mind," she said with a small smile. Her words comforted me and I found myself smiling back. "Look at you giving me advice, and thanks for taking care of me like this. Not many girls would take a drunk home, especially a guy," I said. "I suppose I did act a bit impulsively," she said with a chuckle. "Seriously, you took a big risk. You're lucky I'm a gentleman," I replied. "You're right, but I just felt I could trust you. You give off this kind-hearted energy, and after what you did for me, I didn't feel right leaving you. Keep throwing out those compliments and I'll think you're flirting with me," I said, wagging a finger at her. Her eyes lit up like 2 moons and her smile deepened. She put a hand to her chest, pretending to be offended. "Me? Never. I'm in a title-less relationship, remember." She joked. "Oh, Mr. Commitment, how could I forget?" I responded. She giggled, then her eyes drifted off in thought. "You know what we need? A break. We need to go out and have fun and stop getting so hung up on if so-and-so texted us today. We're too young to spend our free time getting depressed and drunk over people who are giving us hot and cold signs," she said. I couldn't agree more. "Tell me about it," I said, passing a hand over my forehead. "This is a heavy load we're carrying." She looked at me, then back to her coffee, then back at me again, like she was on the verge of saying something but convinced herself to shut up. What is it? Come on, I don't bite, I said. She hesitated, but forced herself to speak. Did you have any plans after this? She said, stirring her cold coffee with a spoon. No, why? Are you asking me out, girlie? I asked, wiggling my brows. I loved seeing her flustered, the way her eyes went all wide and her cheeks reddened like 2 apples. It was so entertaining to me. Why, yes. I mean, not like that. I mean, since we're both so stressed out and I had something fun planned, I thought that maybe. I'd love to, I responded, grinning. She relaxed in her seat and looked at her coffee cup rather than me. Cool, she said quietly. I accidentally let a chuckle slip out. We both were the same. Adulthood wasn't kind to us so far. We both were just waiting for someone to hit the start button so we could put down the survival tools and actually start living. Cool, I repeated. Maybe someone finally pushed that button. We walked together down a dirt pathway in a park not too far from my condo. It was like he couldn't keep still. He was looking all around, trying desperately to figure out where we were going. I couldn't help but laugh. Why are you laughing? He asked, surprised by my sudden outburst. You're making me laugh. Relax, we're almost there, I responded. I feel like I'm about to be murdered. The weird pathway, the woods, the silence. I mean, this is horror movie 101, he said. I laughed again and stopped when I heard even louder laughter coming from up ahead. I smiled widely in response. We were here. Great, and the boys are here too, I said with excitement. My blond stranger squinted his eyes to see what was up ahead. A soccer field, he said, looking into the distance. Are we going to play? Yep, I replied, placing my hand in my shorts pocket. I pulled out a hair tie and put my hair into a ponytail. I could see him smirk and make a "I don't believe what you're saying" face. I mean, given my shy, awkward personality, soccer player did seem a bit far-fetched. I couldn't blame him. You play soccer? No way, he said, slightly rolling his eyes. I bent one leg and reached for the other, stretching my muscles out in preparation. That's okay, if you don't believe me, no one does. I guess I have to show you, I said. I bent forward to touch my toes and caught him checking out my butt. I sighed. I pushed myself to be more bold. Hello, Earth to stranger, I said, looking at him upside down between my legs. Are you gonna stretch too, or should I come closer so you can get a better look? Realizing I caught him, he looked away, obviously flustered, and cleared his throat. It was nice not being the embarrassed one for once. Maybe I was sort of getting a hang of this confidence thing. Sorry, he mumbled. He then stood next to me and began stretching as well. When we made it to the field, and the biggest smile I could muster spread across my face. I loved soccer. The lush green field and laughter from the kids passing the ball back and forth. It reminded me of the good times during my childhood. Soccer was always an escape from the madness. It never failed to help me relax. There's only little middle school kids out there playing, and they're all boys. How do we fit in this equation? He said, scratching his head. I wouldn't underestimate those kids, they're pretty good, I said, watching them. My blond stranger raised an eyebrow of doubt, and before he could say anything, I grabbed onto his forearm to get his full attention. Or me for that matter, I forced myself to say. The look of shock, then determination in his eyes was like a silent challenge. I wasn't sure what it was, but with him, I felt like I could take on the world. I was excited, like I wanted to impress him. Or maybe, just maybe, there was a part of me who loved competition. There it is, that little bit of fire you keep smothering, he said, wagging his finger. I smiled at him, before pulling him onto the field. The boys stopped their game once they noticed me. Sensei, they yelled, and I opened my arms as they came running over and pulled as many of them into my embrace as possible. The look on my handsome stranger's face was priceless. I used to practice in this field all the time by myself. One day these guys came and saw me and demanded me to teach them some tricks. I explained to him. Really? So you're that good, huh, Mr. Stranger said, smirking. Where's Kiba-sensei? Some of us want a rematch, one of the boys said, cutting in. Many others nodded their head in agreement, and I found myself frowning a bit. He's not coming today, you know how busy he is, I responded. Looks of disappointment sprinkled throughout the group of boys. But don't worry, I brought someone who's eager to see what you guys are made of. All eyes were on Mr. Stranger. Hello, he said, scratching the back of his neck. They then began to attack him with question after question. Who the heck are you? Do you play soccer too? How do you know our sensei? You seem pretty fit, what's your workout regimen? Are you dating our sensei? Sensei only has eyes for Kiba-sensei, you know. What's up with the whisker marks on your face, are they real? Mr. Stranger looked overwhelmed, looking back and forth trying to figure out whose question to answer first. I cut in, clapping my hands to get their attention. You guys, let's not overwhelm him. Just know he's a friend and I invited him to come play with us. Let's just have a good time. How about a quick game of keep away to warm up, I said. All my boys nodded in excitement and ran out into the field. I picked up the ball and turned to Mr. Stranger. He already looked impressed, smiling brightly at me to the point where I began to blush. It was those damn dimples. Already, I said after clearing my throat. Yep, he took a step in front of me and tossed his jacket to the ground. Show me what you got, he said with a wink, and jogged onto the field. Something inside me stirred for an instant, but I chose to ignore it. Soccer, Hinata, just focus on soccer. NPOV. I had to admit it. I would have never guessed this mystery girl would be a soccer person. I mean, just the other day she was complaining about being walked over like a rug and struggling to stand up for herself. Yet, the person in front of me was different. She spoke to these kids without stuttering. She maintained eye contact. She even stood up straighter. I knew she had it in her. I don't know completely what kind of cards life had dealt her, but with the right people and some time I knew she could become a force to be reckoned with. I watched her stretch her neck and arms out like she meant business, but for some reason it was still hard for me to picture her tearing up that soccer field. I mean, not to toot my own horn, I was an athlete myself back in the day and pretty good at that. So picking out other athletes was something I was always good at, but looking at her no radar was going off. Once again I was caught looking at her and I watched her cheeks tint red as those lavender eyes met mine. She was too cute to be an athlete. One of the boys snapped me out of my thoughts. "Hey Fox Senpai," he said, slightly pissing me off. I turned to him glaring. "You're on our team, don't make us look bad in front of Sensei." The nerve of kids these days. I had to literally bite my tongue to keep myself from going off on him. Instead I nodded my head in acknowledgement. Make them look bad. I was going to carry them to victory. Their sensei wasn't the only soccer player here. Little Miss Stranger shot one hand in the air to signal the beginning of our scrimmage, before throwing the ball up in the air. "Start," she said as the ball hit the ground. I was the first to the ball. I dribbled it between my feet effortlessly, even doing a few tricks. I still had it, even after all these years. I smiled confidently. My teammates, however, didn't seem so impressed. "Pass the ball, it's keep away not show and tell," one yelled. "Come on Fox Senpai, get it together," yelled another. Man, did these babies need a timeout. I was about to pass the ball to one of those smart-mouthed brats when someone took it from my feet at an unrecognizable speed. I was shocked to see it was little Miss Stranger. She practically glided against the field as she passed the ball to her teammate. "Looks like I caught you napping, stranger," she said over her shoulder as she jogged away, smiling tauntingly. I wasn't even mad. I was amazed, impressed, maybe even a little turned on. Soon a smile that mirrored hers appeared on my face. She was gonna get it. There was nothing I liked more than a challenge. "It won't happen again," I said, rejoining the game. But it did happen again and again. Some time had passed and I had to admit my team was getting their ass handed to them. Completely no fault of my own, of course. Little Miss Stranger was a monster. None of us had the ball for more than a few seconds when she was targeting us. She had the reflexes of a ninja and wouldn't dare go easy on any of us. And I was trying my damn hardest. One of her teammates had the ball and he was about to pass it when I cut in before it could reach his teammate. I checked all around me trying to locate Miss Stranger when I caught her trying to catch me from the side. I rolled the ball backwards with my foot and kicked it to my teammate behind me. Rather than shocked, she smiled harder like she was enjoying my newfound energy. It wasn't very long, however, before she had the ball back with her again though. My poor teammate didn't stand a chance as she kicked the ball from under him, then ran behind him to retrieve it. I looked at the kid with the same look he had given me earlier and repeated, "Pass the ball, this is not show and tell," to him. Immature on my part, but the kid was asking for a beat down. "Okay, if it's so easy, you go get it," he finally said, pointing to his sensei in frustration. His sensei smirked at me, juggling the ball between her feet. "Yeah, come get it." She teased me further, knowingly or unknowingly, when she lifted her shirt, exposing her belly to wipe the sweat from her brow. I had had enough. I was drenched in sweat and breathing heavily at this point. She had embarrassed me in front of all these damn kids, and on top of that she had the nerve to look so fucking good while doing it. I was gonna get that ball. All the boys were tired and seemed to back away, leaving just us on the field. My eyes didn't leave hers as she rolled the ball around with her feet. I shedded a layer, removing my now sweat-stained shirt and tossing it to the ground. I didn't miss the way her eyes quickly skimmed over my abs. I had her. I charged while she was slightly distracted and moved my foot to reclaim the ball, but she was fast. She jogged backwards with the ball, dodging my advances, before quickly moving around me. Still, I didn't give in. As I followed her, her boys began chanting, "Don't let him get it, sensei. Kick his ass, sensei." Those little shits made me sloppy. I stumbled slightly as she dodged me yet again. Damn, she was good. "You look tired, stranger, why not give in?" she said as I ran beside her. "Oh, I'm fine. You on the other hand look like you could use some water, how about giving up?" I responded. She smiled and shook her head as she curved me again, and at this rate I wouldn't have ankles. So I seized an opportunity that could help me win. It wasn't cheating. It was outsmarting the enemy, taking advantage of all the assets presented to me. She was now in front of me, moving the soccer ball with her feet with ease. "It's your move, stranger," she said almost cockily. "Oh, I've got a move," I said, watching her movements. "Really?" she said, dodging me as I lunged forward again. "Yeah, wanna see?" I said. I didn't give her a chance to respond as I once again reached towards her, this time with a target other than the ball. As she tried to pass me, my hand reached out and brushed against her rear. A cheap shot, I know, but hey, desperate times. She yelped and lost control of the ball, and I took it from her easily as she fell on said butt. Her little minions came running to her while I rested my foot on the ball. "I got her." "Sensei, are you okay? What happened?" She glared at me from her position on the ground. I was all teeth, looking back at her. "Yes, sensei, what happened?" I said knowingly. Her cheeks were once again red. She hopped to her feet, dusting grass off her body before picking up the soccer ball. "I'm fine, I must have slipped." I smiled even further when she avoided eye contact. "I think we're done warming up, let's play an actual game now." The boys yelled "yeah" in union and ran to take their positions on the field. She glared at me again once we were somewhat alone. I could still see some red in her cheeks however. Cheater, she said, shoving the soccer ball into my chest. What? All I did was distract you a little, I said with a chuckle. You call that a little distraction, you pervert, don't do that ever again, she responded. She took a few steps away from me, making me laugh even more. Fine, I'm guilty, I said with a smirk. I playfully stepped towards her and this time she hopped away. Alright, I'll stop messing with you. Sorry, I'll play fair from now on, I said, waving a hand in defeat. You better. But either way I'm gonna win, she said tauntingly. So you're saying it's okay if I go in for another distraction? I teased. She rolled her eyes, but I could see her hold in her laughter as she jogged away, her shorts moving against the wind. God, what I would do to be those shorts. To make a long story short, she ended up kicking my ass again. I lost 1-10 and the only reason I was able to score was because her team let us out of sheer boredom. It was humiliating. It was now late afternoon, it wouldn't be too long before the sun set. So we packed up and said goodbye to the gremlins. Bye Fox Senpai, come train with us again so you can stop sucking and maybe beat our sensei one day, that brat from earlier had the nerve to say to me. I wasn't seeing him do any better than me. Yeah, whatever, scram, I mumbled. The kid waved goodbye to his sensei before returning to his group. My legs were sore and I was soaked in sweat, yet I felt relaxed for some reason. I looked at little Miss Stranger, who was watching the boys fade into the distance with a smile. She looked so peaceful, like they were her own children. Her eye caught mine. You want to get some food? She asked. As if on command, my stomach growled loudly. She laughed out loud. Hearing this, I guess I'll take that as a yes. We were now in a Western diner eating steak and fries. I was scared she was one of those people who wanted to watch what she ate after doing such a high-intensity workout like that. I was famished, so I nearly cried of joy when she suggested this place. I didn't feel like I had to eat differently in front of her either. It was a nice change. So how do you feel? She said, sipping her milkshake. I had a mouthful of steak and swallowed hard in order to speak. What do you mean? I responded. Remember earlier, when we were talking about escaping our troubles for a bit and enjoying ourselves, she said. She began playing with her fingers nervously. I had a lot of fun. It was nice to unwind all that stress. But did you? I hope you didn't have to force yourself for my sake. She was back to her usual doubting self. She had no idea how much today had helped me. If I'm being honest with you, this was the most fun I've had in a long time. The way her face lit up when I said that did something strange and fluttery to my insides again. Really? She asked as if she couldn't believe it. I nodded. I was kind of in a rut for a long time. Staying locked inside, drinking heavily, real sad stuff. But you've inspired me. She was smiling like a kid on Christmas morning. She should always smile like that. It suited her much better than the sad state I found her in that night. Me too. I know it sounds a bit dramatic, but in the little time I've known you, I feel like I've gained an extra life. Like I'm ready to try new things, become a different person. Maybe it's because we're so similar, she explained. She picked at her food lazily. I'm glad we met. I smiled and rested a hand on hers to show my support. She grinned back at me. Thanks for taking me out on this date. I really needed this, I said. She made a face and blushed slightly. Date? Hey, don't misunderstand. I just wanted to do something to cheer us both up. It's okay, I won't tell your boy Toy, I said with a wink. Hey, are you listening to me? She argued. I laughed and soon she did too. The feeling in the air was nice. Peaceful. I was glad I met her too. I'm really happy I saved you at that bar, little Miss Stranger, I said. Hinata, I heard her say. Huh, I responded. My name is Hinata. I told you before, but you were too drunk to remember, she said shyly. Hinata. Now that I thought about it, she had saved me too from my own misery at that bar. If she hadn't came, who knows what would have happened. Even now, in a way, she was saving me again with her kindness. I definitely wouldn't forget her name again. The name's Naruto, I said, introducing myself. Introductions were something you did when you first met someone. I found it funny that we were just doing it now. Naruto, she repeated. For some reason, the way my name rolled off her tongue was pleasing to me. A little smile she had after saying it was like an extra special touch. Like the fish cake, she said with a chuckle. Yeah, I know, ridiculous. Supposedly my godfather was a big fan of ramen and called dibs on naming me ... So yeah. She smiled at me and stuck her hand out. It's nice to finally know your name, Naruto-kun, she said cheerfully. Why was she so cute? I took her hand and shook it. This was definitely the beginning of something. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach. It was all so new. I hadn't made a new friend in a long time. We just got each other, despite our obvious differences. I didn't feel the urge to put up any walls like I usually did. He was just so warm and understanding. It's like we're on the same wavelength. Both in pretty shitty relationship situations. Both enjoy drinking to cope, I said to Tenten as I rummaged through her closet. I don't know if that's something to brag about, Tenten said, standing behind me sipping on an energy drink. I pulled out a yellow dress and smiled at it. Yeah, I guess you're right, but we have great conversation too. We were on the phone last night until like 3 just chatting. I pulled the dress into my chest and sighed. It's just so nice to have someone else who gets it, Tenten gave me a weird look. Is that why you're borrowing my clothes and going on this date with him? I turned bright red and glared at her. It's not a date. We're hanging out. I took him to a place I enjoyed last time, so now it's his turn to take me to a place he likes. Tenten looked at me for a while suspiciously. You took a picture with him, right? Let me see it. I put my hand over my pocket with my cell phone in it. No. The smirk on her face deepened. Why, Why do you need to see it? I snapped back. She came a little closer and I took a step back. Something's up, Hinata, she sung teasingly. Then out of nowhere she tackled me to the ground. We wrestled on the ground laughing and shrieking as we battled over the phone. Tenten was always a bit stronger than me, so it came as no surprise that she was able to overpower me and take my phone. She yelled victoriously. Ten, I whined as I struggled to try and take my phone back. It was too late. She was already scrolling through the pictures. I was suddenly regretting giving her my password. Her face instantly changed upon finding the picture. Her jaw might as well have hit the ground. This is him, Tenten bellowed out. I nodded slowly. Hinata, he's so hot. Oh my god, Kiba is fucked. I snatched my phone from Tenten's hand and glared at her. No, he's not. He's not hot. I reddened. I mean he is. I was talking about Kiba. He's not fucked. He's the only one I want, I said. Tenten put both hands on my shoulders. Hinata, I love you, but you're freaking nuts. This hunk of man is taking interest in you and you're still after a guy who can't even return your calls. I swatted her hands away. No, Tenten. Naruto has a girl he wants and I have a guy I want. He's great and sure he's good looking, but he's a friend and I refuse to see him other than that. But, I pointed a threatening finger at her. Nope. No more shipping me with random ass guys. Tenten sighed and rested a hand against her face. Fine. Sorry for wanting my best friend to be happy instead of waiting for Kiba's dumbass. You never liked him, did you? I asked. I wanted to. Then he started playing ding dong ditch with you and that I will never accept as a future for you. I patted Tenten's head. It's gonna work out. I know it will. I just need to speak my mind more. Kiba's amazing. I just need to be clear about what I want. Tenten sulked and picked up the yellow dress I picked out. This would look great on you. Considered it a gift. I beamed with gratefulness. Really, thank you, Ten. Your giant boobs will probably stretch out the fabric and make me feel bad about my cups anyway, but I'm sure Naruto won't mind seeing them bouncing about. I picked up a hanger from the ground and began chasing her around her apartment with it. She was a pain in the ass, but she was like a sister you couldn't help but love. NPOV. I'm gonna have to cancel today, Shika, I said into my phone as I walked down the street. What do you mean? I'm not making it up. I actually have plans. And oh, not with Sakura. I clicked my teeth in annoyance. Yes, I have friends. I thought you were one of them, in fact. Whatever, man, I gotta go. I sighed and looked up at the sky. It was a beautiful day. With winter around the corner, who knew how many days like this we'd have left? I felt like going out and enjoying myself. Being cramped up inside didn't do well for my mental health. Especially with this thing with Sakura going on. Even though she was hurting me, I still felt so strongly for her. How was it she didn't feel an ounce of what I was feeling? I wanted to be near her all the time, to touch her, to destroy any guy who so much looked at her. It was such a strong feeling. What was wrong with me? Was I not her type? Did she just see me as her friend? Why couldn't she just tell me? It hurt so bad. Naruto-kun, a soft voice called out to me. I turned around to see a pretty girl with blue-black hair running towards me. I still hadn't gotten used to the whole Naruto-kun thing. She was so polite, most people would just call me Naruto, no questions asked, but it was kinda cute, almost like she was giving me a pet name. You finally made it, I said, giving her my best smile. Her cheeks stained slightly. I enjoyed having that power over her. See, Naruto, you still got it. What was up with Sakura? Yes, sorry, I'm a bit late, she said. My friend was giving me a little trouble. She shifted in her jacket, visibly uncomfortable for some reason. It's okay, Hinata, we were just going for a walk anyway. I decided to invite Hinata as company. After all, we kind of hit it off. She was interesting to me, so quiet and mysterious. The little detective in me wanted to learn more about her. Let's go. She pushed a strand of her hair behind her ear and smiled up at me. Okay, there it went again. That fluttering in my chest. Alright, she's pretty get a grip, man. One of the things I like to do is go on adventures, just walking around getting lost and discovering new things. And there's always stuff to discover in Konoha, I said as we walked. That's such a cool way to find new places. What's the last place you discovered? She asked. Excited, I took her hand and pointed to a shop across the street. You like sweets? There was something that sparkled in her lavender eyes that required no response. Yeah, you do, I said, pulling her towards the shop. Her laugh was light like bells, soft and gentle. The type that made you smile and you couldn't resist no matter how hard you tried. We entered the store and she was completely floored. It was a bakery, restaurant that sold homemade styled food and fresh pastries. With its redwood walls, yellow lights and fabric-lined furniture, it gave the place a warm, cozy feel, like you were entering someone's home rather than a shop. This place is amazing. She placed her hand on the display case and stared intensely at the fresh tray of cinnamon buns that was placed in there. She was so easy to read. I asked the lady at the counter to bag up too, while Hinata walked around taking the place in. I learned something new about you. I chuckled at her stance as she pointed at me, grinning in excitement. Really? You like stories? She said. Okay, what? She smiled at my puzzled face. You like things that are more than what meets the eye, you know, things you can dissect. Like this store, just looking at its walls that you can tell there's a story behind it, and the Nindo was so traditionally Japanese, with literal history engraved into its wall. Or, short women with long dark hair and boy troubles, I added. She blushed and looked at the ground. Why, yes, she stuttered. I laughed out loud. I'm impressed, I can't deny any of that, but what's got you so interested in me all of a sudden? She was doing it again. Trying to open that door I kept closed for a reason. We're always talking about me. I don't know much about you. I gave her a teasing smile. Maybe I don't want to talk about me. Maybe you're scared. Maybe you're not ready to open up and show all the skeletons in your closet, she said boldly. While this took a turn, I was the one who was supposed to read her, and now that the tables were turned I felt like a deer caught in headlights. She was spot on too. She looked like she regretted what she said. Sorry, was that too blunt? I shook my head. Don't apologize. You were speaking your mind. That's what I've been trying to get you to do. It was good. Well, thanks, I guess, she said with a smile. I held up the bag of cinnamon buns. I discovered something about you too. The smile on her face widened. HPOV. He liked to work out. Boxing was his thing, which would explain his physique. He was competitive. He loved things that required a challenge, but at the same time he was nurturing. He slipped up and told me about his collection of succulent plants that he'd been taking care of and how he was thinking about getting a cat. But was so a dog person. He was hard-headed, yet sweet, brave and strong all at the same time. He also had no trouble showing me just how hilarious he was and never failed to make me smile. The things he told me were so basic. In fact, I think he told me these things to throw me off the trail, to hide that little bit of darkness in his eyes, the hue that told me that there was so much more, a vulnerable side I only had gotten a taste of because he was drunk. And while I was so willing to expose myself to him, he still seemed to be so closed off. I wanted to know the real him. I wanted to go underneath the surface. But for now I had to leave it alone. This friendship was still so fresh. He was Naruto Uzumaki, someone who I still had so much to learn about, yet I was already so happy to have gotten to know. We had been to plenty of shops in areas of Konoha I had no idea even existed. Before we knew it, the day had come to an end. Exhausted, we sat in the grass on an incline that overlooked part of the city. Naruto laid down with his arms crossed behind his head and exhaled. This was nice, Hinata. Did it take your mind off of everything? Shit, I hadn't thought about Kiba once hanging out with Naruto. I was so focused on learning about him. Why yeah, it did. I felt guilty, but that didn't stop me from smiling at Naruto. I had fun. Naruto rolled onto his side and looked up at me. I like this side of you. It's different from the bar Hinata. I chuckled. Bar Hinata was very sad. Well yeah, and bar Hinata was uncertain and scared. Bar Hinata was a yes sir kind of girl. But this Hinata right before me is on a whole other level. What do you? I stopped speaking, realizing the difference. Don't get me wrong, I was still an unconfident mess, but I was looser. I even spoke my mind a little bit. Looks like you finally noticed, huh? Naruto said, smiling. He was right. When had things gotten so tense with Kiba and I ever since we started this weird relationship? It was like I was scared that if I took one step out of line we'd go back to being just friends. To be honest, I'm not sure why, but you let your guard down with me, he said. I wasn't sure either. He gave off this energy that just made you want to tell him everything. He never rejected me. He was so kind and compassionate. But, use what you did today and have a talk with that guy. His eyes slightly dulled. Tell him how you feel. It might be scary, it might even hurt, but you need to do it. I pushed myself a little further and laid back against the grass and looked at him. His eyes were at the sky. They were sad. There was something going on with him. I bet it had to do with that girl. Did something else happen with that girl? He looked shocked for an instant but tried to recover by looking indifferent. What makes you say that? I turned towards him. You can play the tough act all you want, but one day I'm going to break through that shell. Naruto chuckled at my pathetic attempt to be threatening. And to that I say good luck. You'll have to get me drunk. We're friends now, Naruto-kun. I'm not sure what happened or even what you're feeling, but I'm here for you. I really want to be. I know our friendship has barely begun, but don't be afraid to lean on me like I've leaned on you. I put a hand on his shoulder. You don't have to fight this alone. Naruto didn't look at me. He was thinking hard about what I said and his mouth opened like he was about to say something, but held himself back. Thanks, Hinata. He flipped over so we both faced each other. Maybe I should try to be a bit stronger too. It's hard opening up to people about these things. I've kind of taught myself not to. But you know what? What? I asked. You make me want to try. I smiled at him. And you know what else? I giggled. What else? That yellow dress looks really good on you. I looked down in horror to see that my jacket had unzipped. I quickly shot up and covered myself, completely embarrassed. Naruto openly laughed at my reaction. Confidence, Hinata. Don't you ever hide. Naruto inspired me that day. He made me feel stronger than I actually was. He pushed me out of my comfort zone. I wanted to change and he made me believe I could. It had been a few weeks since my little outings with Naruto-kun and I had to say it had a bit of an impact on me. I woke before my alarm clock, cooked myself some breakfast for once. I even put on a little makeup. Let's just say I was motivated. Our conversation had left me inspired to change my ways. I wanted to be a little more productive and confident. I looked at myself in the mirror after fiddling with my hair a bit. You've got this. Brave and confident. Remember, you are no doormat, I said to myself. A vibration in my pocket scared me out of my thoughts. I laughed at myself. So much for being brave. I looked at my phone and smiled at the message on my screen. You got this, girly. Kick ass and make this day your bitch. Naruto. He was so sweet. We still had a lot to discover about each other, but when we hung out it was always so natural. It was nice to know someone else believed in me. I couldn't be more grateful for meeting him. He was a great addition to my life. With an extra confidence boost I was out the door and ready. I would make him and myself proud today. It was time I took charge of my life. and the best way to do that was to take on the sources of my problems. I stepped out of my blue car with a bag of bagels dangling from my arm and 2 cups of coffee in both hands. I was heading to Kiba's place, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't nervous. After our passionate night, we spoke to each other maybe 3 times. Silly me thought we were on the right path because of his jealousy. Boy, was I wrong. We were back to square one, and I was sick and tired. It had been ages since I'd been here. He was always so busy. He worked 2 jobs and somehow made just enough time to walk his dog, go to the gym, and have a social life. I always felt so selfish asking him to spend time with me. Naruto made sure to tell me how dumb I was being. If he really likes you, he would make time, he said to me one night over dinner. You've been letting him get away with too much. That's a class doormat behavior, girly. He was right, but how the hell was I to tackle this? I mean, we weren't officially dating, but then again we were supposed to be friends first. So asking him to spend time with his friend wasn't really out of the norms, was it? Suddenly standing in front of his apartment door was making me nauseous. Had I made a mistake coming here? I should have thought this out more. It wasn't too late to turn around. Naruto's text message flashed through my mind. No, I was going to talk this out with him. There was no turning back. I was tired of us being in this gray area. Were we friends with benefits? Did he like me like I liked him? I was tired of wondering. I needed closure. I rung the doorbell of his apartment and knocked. There was silence, and I was beginning to wonder if he was even home. If I remembered correctly, he was off on Sundays. Was I wrong? I lightly rapped at the door again, and this time I heard footsteps. I'm coming, hold your horses, I heard him yell. My anxiety shot through the roof. Here I went. When the door opened, I was met with a rather pleasant sight. Kiba stood at the door in nothing but a towel tied around his waist. Water droplets slid down his perfectly sculpted pecs, encouraging my eyes to follow them along his abs into that delicious V. My whole body was set ablaze at the sight, leaving my mind wiped and my limbs jello. Focus, Hinata. Focus. He slicked his wet hair back and looked at me with slightly wide eyes. Hinata, what are you doing here? He said. I had to forcefully snap myself out of this hormonal trance by biting down on my lip. See, coffee, was all I could say, holding the cup to him helplessly. He gave me a puzzled expression, but took the cup from me. Come in, he said with a head nod towards his apartment. I nodded a little too hard and followed behind him. Him turning me on wasn't a part of the plan. I needed to regroup. Just give me a sec, I was in the shower, I need to change, he said over his shoulder. He motioned to the couch, but I found myself standing there watching him as he headed towards his room, shedding his towel before he even made it completely in the doorway. Well, at least he was comfortable around me. A bark drew me from my frazzled thoughts. I looked down to see a big white dog staring back at me. I smiled at him and kneeled to his height. Hey boy, remember me? I said. The dog, as if understanding me, jumped into my arms, nearly knocking me down. He licked my face over and over again, wagging his tail as I petted his back. Easy, Akamaru, you're going to lick my makeup off? I've missed you too, I said. I was midway through giving him a belly rub when Kiba re-entered the room with clothes on sadly. Wow, you guys are still tight after all this time, he said, watching us with a grin on his face. We have a bond you'd never understand, I responded, smiling. I'm his favorite. Isn't that right, Akamaru? Akamaru barked as if to respond, making me laugh, and Kiba shake his head. Traitor. You think raising him from a pup would mean something, Kiba said, reaching into the bag of bagels. The atmosphere was nice and friendly. I dreaded ruining it. Where's Shino? I brought enough bagels for all of us. He never was a coffee drinker though, I said, settling down on the couch. Akamaru was all too happy to join me, resting his head on my lap as I stroked it. Kiba, Shino, and I were a trio of friends throughout middle school. We did everything together up until I was kicked out. I had to transfer schools after that, but we made an effort to see each other when we could. The distance did put a bit of strain on our relationship, but once I got my license in high school, I tried my best to make up for lost time. Kiba tore off a piece of his bagel and fed it to Akamaru. You just missed him. He's helping with tutoring at the high school again. Oh really? He has a way with kids. He's gonna make a great science teacher one day, I said. There was a hint of sadness in me hearing that. Shino was acting on his dream of teaching while I was still working at some place not even close to what I wanted to be. Yeah, he is, but let's stop beating around the bush. You're here for a reason, right? Damn, I was caught. He was always so intuitive. It was something I always loved but at times hated about him. What, I can't come visit you and see how you're doing? I said, laughing a bit. You can, but when you do, you always call in advance, he said, sitting next to me on the couch. And he said, scooting even closer. He took a strand of my hair and played with it before pushing it behind my ear. I had to struggle not to shiver. You look as white as a ghost. Talk to me. What's got you so worked up? Gorgeous. Here it was. Brave and confident, remember. Apparently Akamaru could even tell things were about to get tense. He got up from his position on the couch and ran out of the room. His comfort would have helped a little because I was really on my own now. Phew, I guess, I finally said. The silence that followed was unsettling. I resisted the urge to play with my fingers. Kiba raised both brows at me, slightly surprised by my response. What kind of worked up are we talking about? Because if it's the sexy kind, I have many ways to fix that, he said with a suggestive look that made me giggle a bit. And no, it's just, I had to take a breath to relax myself. What are we, Kiba? I almost cringed at the face he made after I said that. He was now visibly uncomfortable, not making eye contact and fiddling with a pillow that laid on the couch. Hinata, Kiba, I know the other night I said we were friends, but are we really that? We've done things that have crossed the boundaries of friendship and… I know, he said, cutting me off. He rubbed his face with both of his hands and let out deep a sigh. I knew we'd have to talk about this eventually. Something about that sentence didn't sit right with me. So you've been thinking about it too? I responded. Did he not want to talk about this with me? He finally looked at me again. There's a bit of frustration in his eyes. Yes, of course I have. It's not every day that people sleep with their friends. So why? I asked. Kiba let out another sigh. It's a very touchy subject that could go either really well or super shitty, and I guess I just didn't want to make that leap just yet. Somehow every time he spoke I got more and more confused. Was this a good thing or a bad thing for him? He was taking too long to explain himself and my anxiety was getting more and more difficult to bear. I guess it was up to me to ask the tough questions. So how did you feel about our arrangement? I struggled to ask. Kiba leaned back against the couch and looked up at the ceiling. Well, if I'm being honest, I'm conflicted. The sex is great, but we also have this friendship ... so it's a bit odd, isn't it? I'm afraid mixing the two has put us in a weird spot, like we are both holding something back, he said. He rested his hand on my arm. I don't want to lose you. You're someone very important to me and I'm afraid the sexual part of our relationship might ruin that, he said. He then gently pulled on my arm, causing me to fall against his chest. When I looked at him there was something different in his stare. He brought his face a bit closer to me, his eyes burning with that all too familiar heat. No ... not now. But then there's that part of me. He reached over to me, pinching my chin between his fingers. Okay, Kiba, wait, I said as he drew even closer. He tilted my chin so that he could slowly brush his lips along my jawline. That's so fucking attracted to you. My nails scraped his shirt when he pressed his lips against my neck. My breath hitched. Okay, Kiba, we have to focus. I know you want me just as badly as I want you, he whispered, tracing slow kisses down my neck. But how do we fight that? Kiba, he sucked at that spot just below my ear, destroying the little resistance I had left. How do we fight it? I don't want to, I almost purred when he nibbled at my ear. I don't want it either, he whispered. In an instant he was on top of me. His hands were sliding up my shirt and his mouth was now dangerously close to mine. My mind was hazy, drunk on his scent. So how about we don't? We just let things stay the way they are. We can still be friends. I almost agreed when he leaned down and tasted my lips. But the part of me that was not incredibly horny knew that friends with benefits wasn't something I was really looking for with Kiba. There was more than just attraction with him. His mind, body, soul, I wanted it all. Was it selfish? Maybe. But I couldn't deny the feelings I had for him. I'm in love with you, Kiba, I blurted out. Kiba was halfway done taking my jeans off when he found himself frozen at my words. He looked at me with wide eyes, like I just told him I was actually an alien. Not a good sign. Why, you're what? He said in disbelief. I love you, Kiba, I said again. Man, was this embarrassing to say twice. Are you sure? He responded. His response angered me so much, I practically kicked him off of me. He was thrown back to the opposite end of the couch and appeared shocked by my behavior. What do you mean, am I sure? You know how hard it was for me to even say that. I yelled at him. I was surprised at myself. I never got loud with anyone. Maybe you're just confused because of the sex and the friendship thing happening at the same time, he defended. I was livid at this point. I buttoned my pants, fixed my shirt and reached for my purse. Kiba, seeing this, grabbed my arm and tried to calm me down. Okay, I believe you, he said, sitting me back down on the couch. Just relax. He was now pacing back and forth around his apartment, running his hand through his hair and rubbing his temples. He was so cruel. Why couldn't he just say it and spare me the wait? This was so humiliating. Just say it, Kiba. You don't feel the same. I was now on the verge of tears. I was so foolish to think anything good could come out of this. Don't put words in my mouth, he yelled back. When he saw the tears in my eyes, he backtracked. Sorry. Damn it, Hinata, I don't know what to feel, he said. His hands now covered his face. He was scared and confused. Perhaps I was a bit too tough. I slowly got up and stood in front of him. Do you have feelings for me? I asked calmly. He removed his hands from his face and nodded. I do, I think I always have, but love. I'm not in love with me, I finished for him. He nodded once again with so much guilt it looked painful. His words burned worse than any fire could do. Yet there was still hope in my heart. So you don't want to even try and see where things go? I bravely asked. Again he was uncomfortable and again I was hurt. I didn't want to force him into anything he wasn't ready for. So I accepted fate no matter how bitter it was. I understand, I said before he could even speak. It was hard to swallow and tears began to leak from my eyes. I had to get out of here before I broke. But he grabbed me and hugged me so tight I thought my ribs might break. I'm so sorry, he said. Please, can't we just freeze time until I'm ready? He really thought I would wait for him. I was so tired of that. How dare he even ask? I struggled in his grasp. My tears were out of control now. I had to leave. He held me even tighter. His strong arms were like a cage. Please, Hinata, let me go, I yelled. His shock gave me a chance to slip from his grasp. I looked at him with so much hurt and anger he seemed to shrink under my stare. All I've been doing is waiting. Do you have any idea how the last few years have been for me? It hurts too much, Kiba, I said to him. Either you want to be my friend or you want to be my boyfriend, nothing in between. I'm done. The cards are in your favor. And while you figure out what move to make, I will be living my life. Don't call me and don't text me for a while. I need a break, I said, snatching my bag off the table. I could feel his eyes on me. I didn't care. I headed to the door without looking back once. Yet for some reason my own words hurt me. When I opened the door, Hina was standing outside of it. He looked a bit shocked to see me. Hinata, was that you yelling just now? He said. Hi Hina, I said. Then I slid past him and carried on my way with whatever strength I had left. When I got to my car, it was a different story. I was sobbing the whole time I was driving. How could Kiba be so insensitive? Did he even think how this relationship must have affected me? How painful it would be to lay with a man you loved, not knowing if he even felt the same. Suddenly I felt disgusting, like a used napkin. I began to question if being in a relationship would even be a good idea after all. I was at a stoplight when my phone flashed. I got a new text message. I was prepared to give Kiba the worst text message curse out of his life, but it wasn't him. Please tell me those are tears of joy, the message said. I looked over into the car next to me to a familiar face. Staring back into those blue orbs, always for some reason soothed my pain just a little bit. Naruto signaled for me to pull over, waving his arms in such a goofy manner I had no choice but to chuckle a bit. I was beginning to think he was actually an angel of some sort. Surprise, they weren't tears of joy. It always hurt my heart to see such a pretty face soiled by tears. We were now at a local ice cream bar. It was a little early in the day to be filling our stomachs with sugar, but I had to do something to cheer her up. Plus, if I didn't get her out of her car, I was pretty sure a cop would, seeing her bawling her eyes out like that, crying. I watched as she stuffed her face full of mint chocolate chip like it was going out of style, while she explained what happened through her tears. It was the saddest sight I had ever seen. Slow down, angel face, you're gonna vomit like that, I said, resting my hand on hers. I don't care, she said with teary eyes. Yikes, it's hopeless, isn't it? I should just give up and move on with my life. Why'd I think we could become something more? She said. She crossed her arms and rested her head on the table in defeat. I was mad for her. I mean, what kind of guy treats such a nice, loyal girl like that? Women like her were hard to come by these days. You know, girls with personality that actually matched their looks. He's an idiot. The boyfriend title obviously scares him. Sleeping with you with no commitment was a pretty sweet deal. He expected you to put up with that, and now that you're not, he doesn't know what to do, I said, licking my spoon. I couldn't help but think of Sakura. Was being in a relationship even a thing anymore? Good on you for standing up for yourself. Uncle Naruto's proud of you, I said with a grin. I managed to get a smile out of her. Remind me what it is about this guy that's got you hooked, I asked. Cause right now he just seems like a huge dick. There must have been a reason she put up with all that. She was a knockout. She could have any guy if she tried hard enough. So why him? A dreamy smile appeared on her face. He was like my hero. The story's cliche, now that I think about it. I was bullied back in middle school. I was the typical shy kid with no backbone, and he was the popular sporty kid with a ton of friends. One day he and another friend of ours were assigned partners in our English class. Back then you were stuck with those set partners till the end of the year, and boy was it one great year. The way she spoke had so much emotion in it. It was like she was reliving that moment. I could feel affection radiating off her like heat. We were inseparable ever since. Let's just say I was never picked on again, and over time he stopped being a hero in my eyes and more. Hot, I said, wiggling my brows. The way she blushed was too cute. I let a laugh slip from my lips as she struggled to continue. Well, I wouldn't say it in those words. I leaned back into my seat, analyzing the situation. So his kindness earned your love, huh? I said. That and his goofy laugh, the way he pouts when he's mad, his bravery and determination. God, even the way he chews his food is just perfect, she said, gripping her hair. Her enthusiasm quickly turned cold as her eyes fell to her ice cream bowl. But I guess I was never going to be anything but a body and a charity case to him. Nope, just that sad girl who was kicked out of her own home because even her own father couldn't love her. Her hand instantly went over her mouth. I guess I wasn't supposed to hear that. I felt a pain in my heart. If there was anything I wish we didn't share similarities with, it had to be that. I broke the silence that fell between us, being careful not to scare her back into her shell. What are we, kindred spirits? I said. Her eyes widened at my words, and I felt a small bitter smile form on my face in reaction. Don't tell me you had a rough childhood too, she responded. I nodded my head. Though the subject hurt like hell, I wanted to comfort her. I felt like I needed to for some reason. So for the first time in a long time I revealed myself a little. My parents died in a car accident when I was a baby. I don't even remember their faces. So trust me, I know just what it's like growing up sad. To be alone. This time she took my hands in hers and squeezed them. It was funny, I was trying to comfort her, and now it seemed like I was the one being comforted. I'm so sorry, she said. It's okay, let's talk about it another time, I responded. I patted the free space on my bench. Come here a sec. She gave me a skeptical look, but slowly rose from her seat to join me on the opposite side of the table. She looked so sad, so frail, like she could shatter if you touched her. I hope to God I didn't add to her pain by mentioning my past. I slowly pulled her into my chest and held her. I never had a mom to do this for me when I was sad, but man, did I wish I had when I was little. Even though I was a guy, I hoped that this would bring her as much comfort as it did me. You're going to be okay, I said, tightening my arms around her. She seemed so stiff, but soon relaxed into my embrace. I felt her tears wet my shoulder as I stroked her lavender-scented hair. Don't let that guy back into your life until he's made up his mind, you hear me? I mean it. There's no sense in crying over someone who treats you like that. After hesitating, she slowly slid her hands under my arms and encircled my back. She nodded her head against my shoulder in response to my words. Take a break, do some things you love. Try to forget he exists for a bit and just work on you. Then when that idiot does get his shit together and comes back, you'll be stronger than ever, and from there you can decide if he's worthy of you. In a way, it felt like I was comforting myself. These were the words I wanted to hear, the advice I needed. I felt her remove her head from my chest, and soon we were eye to eye. She was so close I could describe every part of her pretty face in detail. For a split second I felt something stir inside me looking into those pools of lavender, but I suppressed it. There was no way I was going to let whatever I was feeling ruin the moment. Thank you, Naruto-kun, she said, wiping her tears with her sleeve. Why was I suddenly so bent on helping her? This wasn't like me at all, picking up random girls and becoming their therapist. It was too nice for even me. Yet, I felt such a strong connection between us. Maybe we were family in a past life or something. A buzzing sound came from one of our pockets, breaking the silence. She pulled out her phone and gave me an apologetic glance. It's my friend. I promised I'd stop by her house, she said. Well, don't let me keep you. Go on, enjoy yourself. It's the perfect opportunity to relax and have fun, I responded. But I was having fun with you, she said. Damn it, there it went again. What? Crying all over my shoulder, I teased. Was I that good of a hanky? She lightly punched me in my arm as I laughed. But seriously, go. I've got to go someplace too. After hesitating, she rose from her seat and slung her purse over her arm. Fine, thank you again, she said, looking down at me. Next time I'm charging you, I said with a smile. She then did something I hadn't expected. She leaned down and pressed her soft lips against my cheek. I stared at her with my mouth open as she pulled away. I couldn't believe it. I was expecting her to be embarrassed, but she stood above me with a teasing smile, like what she just did amused her. I slapped a hand over the spot she kissed with my mouth still open dramatically. He pervert, I said, imitating her. Her smile was now toothy. Guilty, she imitated back, and with that walked out the ice cream bar. My eyes followed her the whole way to the exit. All of her, from her shiny blue-black hair down to her pointed boots. Fuck, there was no denying it. I was extremely attracted to that girl. Which was no good. I was the type of guy who always acted on his attraction. If Sakura could just accept my feelings, things would be so different. I know they would. I wouldn't be after these girls, imagining they were her, hoping they'd fill that void. She was the one I really wanted. I scarfed down my ice cream. No, I wouldn't do that to Hinata. Not to her. She was a good girl, and the last thing I wanted was to hurt her like that guy. I sounded like some type of recovering sex addict or something. Disgusted by myself, I signaled to the waiter I was done and left the ice cream bar. I got in my car and began traveling to my next destination. I had a side job I had to do today with some friends. Yes, I had friends. Not very many, but I guess I wasn't a complete loser. My friend Shikamaru had a thing for anything involving renovations, made a whole career out of it and everything. Every now and then when he took on a big project, he'd ask some of his friends to pitch in. That's how I planned on spending my day. It was a messy job, but I didn't mind it. It was a great way to get rid of some stress. Breaking shit without the jail time, I mean, how could I resist? Today we were renovating a whole bakery. Jackpot. That meant a lot of walls and cabinets that needed to be taken out and more smashing for me. It was just the thing I needed to get my mind off of everything. Rounding the corner, I could already see Shikamaru's white van and sawdust flying everywhere. Rotten bastards probably started without me. I parked my car and hurried over to the site. Well, look who finally decided to show up. A familiar pale face with dark red hair peeked out from the back of the van with safety glasses in his hands. Gar, what's up, man? I said, giving him a fist bump. Didn't expect to see you here. Yeah, well, Temari kind of dragged me here. Anything for Shikamaru, I guess, he replied, handing me a pair of safety glasses. Hey, you're a good brother. You'll earn some serious brownie points for this. Speaking of Shikamaru, where's he at anyway? I said, looking at the bakery. He's in the kitchen giving everyone directions. Careful, he's turned into Sergeant Asshat again. I wince remembering just how seriously Shikamaru could take his business sometimes. Bossy was an understatement. I'm guessing that's why you're out here, I said. Gara replied with a nod. I'll sneak back in when the smoke's cleared. He was butting heads with Choji by the ovens last I saw him. Good luck, Gara said. I rolled up the sleeve of my shirt and let out a sigh. Why do I feel like I'm going to regret this? Because you are, Gara replied with a smirk. And with that I entered the battlefield. I could already hear Shikamaru's sarcastic complaints. Listen, Choji, I get you have a bit more weighing you down than the rest of us, but you're not gonna tear any walls down swinging your mallet like that. Yeah, then how about I test it on you and see if you go down? Choji replied. I walked in on Temari standing between Choji and Shikamaru with her hands out to her sides like a bodyguard. Poor thing looked like she was ready to explode. My money's on Temari hitting you both with that mallet, I said. Once they all noticed me, I could see Temari's face relaxed with relief. Oh, thank God you're here. These two have been going at it all day, she said, coming over to give me a friendly hug. I feel like I'm on the verge of losing my mind. Must have been pretty bad if you're coming to me for comfort, I said, patting her back. I wouldn't have to argue with anyone if you guys just listened to me, Shikamaru said, cutting in. The look in his eyes was hollow like he was over life itself. "Shikamaru, my favorite pineapple, how's it going, brother?" I presented my fist and he looked at it like it was the most uninteresting thing he had ever seen. Okay, so he was for sure in a shitty mood. I found myself fist bumping myself and chuckling awkwardly. Not in the smiling mood I see. He shoved a utility belt into my chest, nearly knocking the wind out of me. "You're late, asshole," he said dryly. Okay, first, ouch my lung. Second, my bad, I had to help a friend in need. You know, she was dealing with some really crappy stuff and I didn't ask, he said, cutting me off again. Geez, with friends like him, who needed enemies? I have to get this place completely broken down so I can begin the renovations by today, and though I appreciate the help, you guys showing up whenever you want and not listening to me is becoming a real drag, Shikamaru said. Sorry, I said. I need a cigarette, Shikamaru said with a sigh. Temari, you're tearing the stuff off the walls. He walked over to Choji, glaring at him and ripping the mallet from his hand. I'll take care of breaking down the walls and Choji will do the wiring. Great, give me the annoying job, Choji mumbled under his breath. No, watching you tear down that drywall at the rate of a snail is an annoying job. When Gaara decides to pop back up again, tell him to join you. Naruto, you're doing the flooring, Shikamaru said. If you need me, I'll be outside, he said, pulling out a pack of cigs. Once he was gone, there was a silence that fell over us. Gaara was right. Sergeant Asshat has returned to the line of duty, I mumbled. Temari raked a hand through her hair in frustration. I'll apologize for that idiot. He's just stressed. He has so many projects lined up, it's making him crazy. It's fine, I understand. Let's just help him out the best he can and make him buy us drinks later, I said. Drinks? I need a whole full-course meal from a 5-star restaurant after what I've had to deal with today, Choji chimed in. We all bursted in laughter at Choji's snide remark and then got to work. Tearing up the flooring proved to be a more difficult task than I thought. A lot of arm strength was required and there were calluses and bruises forming on my hands. Man, was I going to be sore tomorrow. Suddenly it didn't seem that bad as I was halfway done with the front area of the bakery. I was wiping the sweat from my brow when I heard Shikamaru talking to someone outside. Great, another tardy person, he said. Oh, more people to help out. Shut it, Shika. I wasn't even planning on coming in today, but I've been so tense lately I needed this. Same. Wait a minute, I knew that voice. My heart felt like it stopped beating when my eyes met those of Emerald. We froze in our positions, not moving an inch. Her peeking into the bakery from the door and me kneeling on all fours looking up at her. Naruto, Sekiro, I said almost painfully. Did I mention we hadn't spoken to each other since the incident at the veggie place? That fucking moron. It's taking everything in me not to drive over there and kill him myself, Tenten said, pacing around her living room. I just got finished telling her how my morning went and she was somehow angrier than I was. She rested her hands on both of my shoulders and looked me in the eyes. Tonight we are keying the shit out of his car. Tenten, no, I responded. She walked over to her kitchen, pointing a very firm finger at me. Yes, we fucking are. She came back with 2 cups of tea and set it down on the coffee table very violently. I can't believe him. With all that mouth, you'd never expect him to be a coward. You're telling me? I wiped my face with the back of my hand. Of course I was crying again. Tenten's eyes softened, looking at me. Listen, you don't deserve this. You're a prize. Kiba's gonna realize it too late and hate himself forever. I rested my head on her shoulder and drank my tea. Or maybe I'm not a prize, I mumbled. Tenten put an arm around me and pulled me closer to her. No, you're perfect. I think you should take this as a wake-up call and get out there and experience new people. I pulled away from her slightly, and if I don't want to? Hinata, come on. You need to at least experience other men. What if Kiba never wakes up? What are you going to do then, huh? Just the thought of that caused pain to rush to my chest. It wasn't that I hadn't thought about that being a possibility, but it was something I kept suppressing. I had loved Kiba so long, to even think of feeling that way for someone else just didn't feel right. I don't know, I finally said. Exactly, you've been borderline obsessed with that man for so long, I bet you never thought about loving someone else. Okay, was she a mind reader now? You need some affection from someone else. Someone with a dick. Tenten, I said, outraged by her words. Tenten brought a fist to her chin as she thought. Unlike me, she was comfortable with guys and herself for that matter. She was probably going over a list of people in her head that she could hook me up with. I don't want your sloppy seconds, I said, snapping her out of her thoughts. She gave me a telling smile that told me that's exactly what she was thinking. They're not sloppy, they're just guys I friend zone for a variety of reasons, she explained. I'm good, I said, drinking my tea. I didn't even have to look at her, I could tell she was frowning at me. Okay, then how about that Naruto guy you've been talking to me about? I spit my tea out all over her coffee table. Jesus Christ, Hinata, she said, getting up and running to the kitchen to get some napkins. I got up to help her, embarrassed by me sudden outburst. As I wiped the counter down, I could feel her staring at me intensely. I knew she would keep it up until I said something. I'm sorry about the table, I said. Oh, forget the fucking table. That reaction, what was that about? She said. I don't know, I responded, looking back at the table. I continue wiping the table down without another word. So now you're not gonna respond to my question then? What question? I replied. Tenten suddenly got super excited. OMG, you're purposely avoiding the question, aren't you? You're into him. I felt heat begin to rise up my neck. No, I'm not. He's a friend. Tenten scoffed and rolled her eyes in response. An incredibly hot one. Come on, I saw that picture you guys took. He looks like a god. I rushed into the kitchen to throw away the soggy napkins with Tenten hot on my tail. Hinata, she said in a sing-song tone. No way, Ten. He's a great guy and someone I can rely on. I'm not gonna ruin that. You know I don't have many friends, I said, turning to her with as much sternness as I could muster, but I guess my now red face didn't help convince her. She looked at me smugly. But you are attracted to him, right? This time I rolled my eyes at her. Why does that even matter? I told you he's a friend. Tenten crossed her arms and let out a harsh breath. Fine. He's your hot friend who understands you better than most people who happens to be single. I glared at her, making her laugh out loud. Look, I'm trying to help you. You need to see there's plenty of other fish in the sea. I want you to go out there and gain experience. She slung her arm around me. I'm not telling you to rush into a relationship. I'm saying go out there and enjoy yourself, and that includes allowing yourself to engage in some pants-less activities. You're not suggesting what I think you are. Tenten shrugged her shoulders. Hey, you know what they say, the best way to get over one man is to get under another. I shoved her off of me as my mind did backflips. How could boys and sex possibly help heal me? Shouldn't I be running away from those very two things? She followed me as I wandered around her apartment. You're basically telling me to go back into the same situation I was in with Kiba, I said. Tenten frowned. I'm not at all. You love Kiba, so your relationship with him became skewed and messy. You're not in love with Naruto, right? I shook my head. Something unsettling bubbled in my stomach. So there you go. You both are totally into each other, so no boundaries will be crossed as long as rules are set. I glared at her. Okay, fine, I get it. The only reason I suggested him was because it would probably be comfortable for you since you know him, but it doesn't have to be him, Tenten explained. It won't be. Ever. He's just as messed up as me. He's got a girl he's after. I'm not going to. Tenten sighed. Fine, whatever. But you're not opposed to the idea of trying some different sausages. I couldn't help but laugh at her weird choice of words. Somehow I felt like I was going to regret this, but I didn't exactly have any other ideas but crying in my room alone. So what the hell? I guess I'm adding this to my list of changes. Well, I was never exactly vegetarian, I replied coyly. Tenten squealed in delight and threw her arms around me and started jumping around. I'm gonna get you laid. I'm gonna get you laid, she sang. Now that was a song I would never sing along to. And POV. The tension in the room was electric. Anyone could tell that there was some beef between us just by looking at us. So someone please tell me why the flying fuck did Shikamaru tell Sakura to help me out with flooring? I mean, look at her scrawny little arms. There was no way he thought she would be a great help to me. That asshole knew exactly what he was doing. After working in silence for what felt like hours, we both reached for the hammer at the same time, touching hands like in some cheesy romance movie or something. Sorry, she said. I didn't respond. Yeah, I was being a dick, but she sort of deserved it. I took the hammer too and went back to work like nothing happened. I didn't hear the clinging of tools against the tile anymore from her side. I let out a sigh. She was looking at me. So when are you going to stop being a child and talk to me again? I heard her say. I froze in place for an instant before continuing my hammering. As soon as you stop being a child and admit you like me, I responded, not looking up at her. She let out a huge sigh and I could hear her get up from her position and come sit next to me. Her cherry shampoo tickled my senses in the best way, but damn it, I would not give in. I got up and went to work on her side of the room instead. Really? She said in annoyance. Really, I confirmed, still focusing my attention on the flooring. Naruto, can't we just stop this, please? Weren't we friends before all of this? Sakura said, getting up once again to follow me. This time I threw the hammer down on the ground, shattering the tile beneath me and making her pause in her tracks. I haven't thought of you as a friend in a long time. I assent at the issue here, I said sharply. She approached cautiously. This time I didn't move. My eyes watched her the entire way until she was standing right in front of me. I get it. I heard you, she said. Her tone was soft. I'm sorry. There was something in me that calmed a bit, but I still kept up my guard. I let out a sigh. If only sorry was enough, I said back. I could see pain flash in her eyes. I looked away and knelt back onto the ground. Let's just finish this. We still have upstairs to do and I don't want Shika on my back. She knelt back down too. Fine, she replied bitterly. It was silent again, before another voice ruined that. Geez, what the hell is up with you two? The voice called out. I looked up to see it was Temari staring at us with a hand on her hip. It's like watching the world's worst soap opera. I felt anger and frustration rising in me. Great, now we had an audience. If Shikamaru had just told me who'd be here today like I asked, none of this would happen. Seeing Sakura was just too painful right now. Mind your own business, Temari, I snapped back at her. Temari chuckled like my sudden aggression was a joke to her. Oh no, Mr. Smiles is all riled up. Say, Sakura, what did you do to Sunshine over there? It takes a lot to get him down, Temari said. Sakura became uncomfortable and hesitated to speak. Temari, shut up, will ya? I growled. Hey, don't talk to her like that, Shikamaru said, peeking into the door room. Great, more people. It's okay, babe, I'm trying to solve a puzzle here. Something's going on with these two, she said, walking around me and Sakura in a circle. I bet you it's Naruto, he's always doing some dumb crap, Shikamaru said, putting a cigarette to his lips. Stop it, both of you, Sakura said this time. Even I was surprised as a cold silence fell over us. She picked up the hammer and other tools and dropped them at Shikamaru's feet. You guys finished down here since it's so funny, she said with a glare. She then grabbed my arm and up the stairs we went. I wasn't sure why she brought me up to this upstairs storage area. It was dark, covered in dust, and I was pretty sure the floors would cave in at any second with us both being there. Sakura placed her hands on her knees and let out a breath. God, they can be such assholes sometimes. I wasn't sure what to say. Yeah, they could be. But you've been kind of one too. Why the hell did you drag me up here? So many things I could have said, but instead I went with, you think they stored dead bodies up here because I don't see a baked good in sight. Sakura looked at me with her mouth agape, which quickly turned into a smile, then a laugh. That damn laugh that brought chills to my spine. It was like she was toying with me subconsciously. She laughed so hard she nearly tripped over what looked like a cage of some sorts, further confirming my dead body theory. I caught her by the arm just before she fell onto the ground. Her emerald eyes sparkled with the sun creeping in from the windows. We both seemed to freeze looking at each other. Suddenly there was a dance party in my stomach. I was weak. Then to seal the deal she just had to say the right words I wanted to hear. I miss you. Why did those simple words have to go and destroy all the barriers I worked so hard to put up? What killed me even more was that I felt the same way. What's it been like a month, I said, still trying to hold back, even though it was pointless. 2 weeks and 3 days, she said back. Fucking smarty pants, I replied. The fact that she was keeping track did something to me. She laughed once again, regaining her balance. Damn it, I was smiling too. Like the big fool I was. Every time I see a guy with blonde hair on the streets, I get the urge to run up to them and tap their shoulder. I guess the saying is true. You really don't know a good thing until it's gone, she said to the floor rather than me. My chest did this weird twitchy thing hearing that, like she had just lit a flame of hope within me. My feet started moving on their own and suddenly I was in front of her. What are you really trying to say, Sakura? I questioned. She combed through her short ponytail and rocked on her heels. I want my favorite idiot back in my life again, she said. I took another step closer to her. I could see her tense. But you know there's a price. I'm not going back into the friend zone anytime soon, I replied. She looked up at me this time. We were close. So close I could hear her breathing shift. I know that, she replied. So what do you want? I asked again. I was leaning down slightly, my chest almost touching hers. She gripped the back of the cage contraption to keep herself steady. She wasn't answering, but her body definitely was. My hands pressed against the wall behind her so she couldn't escape. I needed answers. Do you want me, or do you not want to be alone? Our foreheads were practically touching. I was surprised I was able to maintain this amount of control. I wanted her bed, and I knew there's something she was feeling for me behind those green eyes. She just wouldn't admit it. I didn't get why. I don't know, I really don't. Why don't you believe me? She responded. My hand gripped her waist and she let out a sound that told me otherwise. She reddened and looked away in embarrassment. That's why. You know, Sakura, don't lie. What are you running from? And just as her hand slowly grazed my cheek, and I thought we were moving somewhere, footprints broke the spell. We quickly separated, of course. I was angry, no, livid. It was Shikamaru and Temeri's dumbasses. They came up the stairs with guilt in their eyes. Shikamaru nudged Temeri's shoulder and she cleared her throat. Listen, after thinking about it, we were dicks to you guys, she said. You think? I replied sarcastically. We were just messing around and maybe took things too far, Shikamaru added. So we are sorry, Temeri finished. Sakura and I both gave them the stink eye. It made me smile to see them become visibly uncomfortable by our silence. To get those two to apologize for anything was like pulling teeth, so they must have been feeling really bad about it. Plus, as much as I hated to admit it, I had a lot of love for them even though they could be pretty rotten sometimes. You're forgiven, but you both owe me a drink, I said. Say no more, Shikamaru said, bowing playfully. I was actually heading out now. I furrowed my brows at him. What happened to the whole deadline? I decided it wasn't worth raising my blood pressure over. I talked to my client, everything's okay, I got an extra few days to tear the place down. So are you coming or not, he said, heading back down the stairs. I smiled in relief. I was so over today anyway. You don't have to tell me twice. Temeri turned to Sakura. You coming, Pinky? No, I actually have to be somewhere, she responded. My face dropped. Her eyes flashed to me briefly before looking back at Temeri. I got it. She was running away from me. Again. What, got a hot date? Temeri said. Man, did I hate her sometimes. No, I actually have to stop by the hospital and fill out some paperwork, Sakura said. There was guilt written all over her. She was lying. She wouldn't even look in my area. Paperwork. Can't you just let her go, Temeri, I said. Everyone looked shocked by my interruption. Even Sakura. I know it was unnecessary, but I couldn't help but glare at her. I even stepped out of her way. Well, what are you waiting for? Go on, I said sternly. She looked at me for a long time. There it was again. That hurt look in her eyes. She then sprinted down the stairs, leaving me and the other two in awkward silence. I was a child. I couldn't help it. She just kept picking away at my wounds. What the fuck was that about? Shikamaru asked. I slung an arm around his shoulder, scaring him a bit. Say, you think there will be any hot chicks at wherever you're taking us? I asked. Shikamaru's eyes widened at me. Because I've been craving some special female attention. If you catch my drift. Now both Temeri and Shikamaru were looking at me like I had an extra head. I didn't give 1 ounce of a fuck. I was bitter. Sack POV. I was outside of the hospital in my car, resting my head on the steering wheel. I didn't know what it was about it that brought me so much comfort. I didn't want to think. If it hadn't been my day off, I would be in there working. Idiot, I cursed myself over and over again. I couldn't get his words out of my head. What are you running from? He was right. I told myself the next time I saw him I would resolve what was going on between us, but I was a coward. It was his fault. I was a confident person, not naturally, but over the years I was completely okay with myself, but he did something to me. I wanted to make things normal between us again, but maybe he was right and there was no going back. I ruined that when I kissed him that night. I should have stopped it then. Whenever I felt like I was stressed out or slipping from my tower of confidence, I took advantage of his comfort. I was the worst. I couldn't even do the right thing and tell him my honest feelings at least. I was lost and confused. Relationships. The only thing I was devoted to right now was my career. Relationships was something nowhere in my mind. Or was it? He gave me butterflies, but did that mean I loved him or his affection? All I knew for sure was I didn't want to hurt him any more than I did. I got out of my car. Fuck it. I would ask if they needed help in the hospital. I needed to drown out this pain in my chest. You have to apply pressure or you're gonna bleed everywhere. A panicked voice yelled. I am. Oh my God, do you think I'm going to lose my arm? Yelled another. My eyes darted to the source of the noise. 2 girls were sprinting towards the hospital, one with a bloody paper towel pressed against her arm. Here was my chance. I followed after them. Excuse me, I yelled, gaining their attention. They both stopped running and faced me. One of them had some of the most unique and pretty eyes I'd ever seen. You're going the wrong way. I pointed in the opposite direction. The is that way. The bleeding one cursed and seethed in pain. It looked like she had a deep laceration to her left forearm, probably from a blade of some sort. I work here, follow me, I know a shortcut, I said. The 2 girls hesitated but nodded. I then led them into the hospital, yelling at people to get out of the way. They seemed startled by my brashness, but I was in work mode. After maneuvering through some hallways and nearly knocking over a few people, we made it. There, through those doors. Hurry, the doctors got a stitch there right away, I said. Gee, thank you, the one with the hauntingly beautiful eyes said. I then heard her say to her friend, I told you to let me cook dinner. I couldn't help but chuckle. So it was a knife wound. Random people were still looking at me like I was crazy, and I thought it was best for me to leave after all. In the parking lot, I was about to enter my car when I noticed something laying down on the ground not too far from me. I went to inspect it and it turned out to be a wallet. I opened it up to find someone's ID. Hinata Hugo. I read off the driver's license. It was that girl I had just seen. Behind her license there was a business card for Crimson Corp. I'm guessing that's where she worked. I then received a text message that shifted my attention. It was from my best friend Ino. Where the fuck are you? That's when I remembered I agreed to go out to dinner with her and some other friends. How did I forget that? The next thing I knew, I was in my car with the wallet in hand. I'd just bring it to her job tomorrow. What was the worst that could happen? I was running around my condo like a mad woman, flipping over furniture, ripping open drawers, and throwing my clothes around. Where in the hell was my wallet? What sucked even more was that today was supposed to be my first day back to work as the new Hinata. I got up early and had time to make breakfast and everything. The only thing holding me back was my wallet. I couldn't remember where I placed it. Now I had to call my bank and get them to freeze my accounts. What a horrible start to the day. Giving up, I grabbed my keys and headed out the door to work, with a promise to clean my mess up later. No breakfast for me, I guess. My thoughts then went to Tenten. Poor thing probably wasn't coming in today because of her stitches. Such a great day together, watching TV and gossiping turned into a horror film when she decided to make dinner. I told her I could do it myself, but she was determined to show off her skills and sliced her forearm open. What was I going to do with that girl? I made a mental note to call her and check up on her later. Hey, you know what they say, the best way to get over one man is to get under another. I shook my head remembering her words. I couldn't believe I agreed to that and I was sober. We were actually supposed to be going out tonight to follow through with her plans, but I guess it was a sign from the heavens that maybe we shouldn't when she injured herself. People really do that, huh? Sleep around for fun, to unwind, like taking a yoga class or having a glass of wine before bed. Now Kiba was floating around in my head. He had been blowing up my phone. He must have finally gotten the hint because I hadn't heard from him in a few days. I hated to admit it, but I did miss him. I think this was the longest we went without talking to each other. Was this it? Were we over? Did he go out and start doing some unwinding with other women? The honking from the car behind me brought me back to my senses. Great, I stopped at a green light. Nope, I wouldn't allow myself to sink back into depression. Today was change day. Once I arrived at work, I felt anxiety begin to bubble up at the pit of my stomach. Man was suppressing that hard. I walked in with my head up and the best smile I could muster. I greeted people making eye contact and tried my hardest not to stutter. I even said hello to the office bitch. Good morning, Karen, I said, walking past her desk. She looked at me like I was gum at the bottom of her shoe. This woman hated anything with boobs that worked here. She was the boss's assistant and the rumor was that she's hopelessly in love with him and didn't want any women getting close to him. I unfortunately was the boss's favorite punching bag since I was pretty spineless. Me leaving in and out of his office all the time must have drove her crazy. Hugo, well, aren't you chipper this morning? She responded sarcastically. Well, it's a beautiful day outside, how could I not be? I said, passing by her. Then to stir the pot just a little more, I stopped a few steps away from her. You should smile a bit more. You'll get wrinkles like that. I then left her sitting there with her mouth agape. I smiled in secret. I couldn't wait to tell Naruto about this. I sat down at my desk, content with myself, then looked at my watch. Tenten was nowhere in sight, so I assumed she did take the day off like I thought. Looks like I was battling today by myself. I turned on my desktop computer and was ready to get to work, when of course just on time I was interrupted. It was Karin again. "The boss wants you in his office," she growled at me. I smiled up at her. "Okay, I'll be right there." The whole time I walked I could feel her giving me a death glare. Only until I opened the door and she met the dark eyes of our boss did her face shift into a relaxed, loving state. I wanted to vomit just looking at it. "Brought her just as you asked, sir," she said in a sickeningly high-pitched voice. It took everything in me not to roll my eyes. The boss nodded his head from his desk and fanned her away with his hand. "That will be all, Karin," he said coldly, but for some reason she lit up and blushed like he said he wanted to marry her. The girl needed help. She bowed and shut the door, leaving me with him. God, was he intimidating. A small cough drew my attention to the seats to the side of the room. There sat a beautiful girl with pink hair and emerald eyes. She looked so familiar, and then it hit me. She was the girl who helped me out at the hospital. What was she doing here? I was going to ask, when the boss, clearing his throat, gathered my attention again. "Miss Hyuga." "Why, yes, sir." And I was doing so well with the not stuttering thing too. "This young lady has come here looking for you," he said, gesturing to the pink-haired mystery lady. She waved at me awkwardly from her seat. What was happening? "You seem to have misplaced something," he said. The girl then rose to her feet and pulled out a lavender bunny-shaped wallet. A mixture of excitement and embarrassment filled my body. "It must have fell out of your pocket back at the hospital. It was a good thing you had a business card in there or I wouldn't have been able to find you," she said with a smile. I smiled back and collected it from her. "Oh, thank you so much. I was looking everywhere for this. I was gonna freeze all my accounts later on today." "No problem. How's your friend? Is she okay?" There was something about this girl I liked. She felt warm, like she actually cared and wasn't just trying to start a conversation. "Yeah, her cut was pretty bad. She got like 10 stitches in her forearm," I said. 10 really? What the heck happened? She asked me. "We were drinking and we were trying to make dinner and she cut her arm instead of the vegetables," I said with a nervous chuckle. "Pretty crazy, right?" She laughed, one of those laughs that was so cute that you had to stop your own and observe. "That's nothing in the we have a lot of crazy patient situations, like one time this guy got his tongue stuck in a..." My boss cleared his throat again, forcing me to come back down to reality. Our conversation just was flowing so naturally I forgot where I was. "I have a lot of work to do and you do too, Miss Hyuga, so could you both wrap this up?" my boss said, looking at us both in annoyance. "Careless with your wallet, careless with your mouth. Is there anything you're careful with today, Miss Hyuga?" I heard him mumbled. There was pain in my chest. I was going to apologize, but the pinkette next to me had other plans. She looked back at my boss with the same annoyance. "Maybe you should be more careful with your mouth, Mr. Big Bucks." She snapped at him. My jaw nearly hit the ground hearing her say that. Did she realize who she was talking to like that? Sasuke had the CEO of Crimson Corp. His company was known around the world. I bet he had enough money and power to own his own city if he wanted to. No one spoke to him like that, not even his competitors. He was that intimidating. "Excuse me," he said, as if to dare her to say it again. I looked at her and signaled with my eyes that she should probably keep her mouth shut. But she ignored me and continued to speak. "You heard me, asshole. You think you can just say what you want and talk down to people because you have money to your name? Well, let me tell you something. I'm not kissing your ass. How about you use all that money of yours to learn some manners?" She yelled at him. My boss surprisingly smirked at her, like what she was saying was entertaining to him. "Oh yeah," he responded. "Yeah, and I'll tell you what else you can do with all that money," she said. I couldn't take it. I yanked her arm and began to drag her out of the room. "You can take the rest of that cash." I was pulling on her with all my strength. We were almost to the door. "And shove it up your diamond encrusted." I ripped open the door as fast as I could. 24 karat. Once she was outside I closed the doors, but she was so loud I bet he heard her yell ass at the top of her lungs. I was still in shock. Talk about confidence and about bravery. She was amazing. I looked at her as she was breathing hard, trying to calm herself down. Everyone in the office's eyes were on her. "I really hate people like that. I don't understand how you could work for that guy," she said, glaring at the door like she could still see him. "Hey," I said, gaining her attention. "Yeah," she replied. "Want to get food with me later on?" MPOV. I made another mistake. Last night's trip to the bar left me completely wasted and lonely. Going home to my cramped, dingy apartment and trying to sleep off the alcohol would have been the smart thing to do, right? But keep in mind I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. So drunk me decided to screw over hungover me and bring home another chick. I mean, getting laid was a part of my plan, don't get me wrong, but I made it a rule to always do it in a hotel or at the girl's place so I didn't run into any stalkerish sort of situations. I must have been completely shit-faced to bring her here, and of course my friends did nothing to stop me. I was currently trying to fight her off me in the shower. How the fuck was I gonna get her out of here? Her wet brown hair was all over me and would definitely clog my drain later, and I could barely breathe as her tongue stabbed the inside of my mouth. If we weren't in the shower, my face would be covered in saliva. Man, I needed to stop drinking. I finally was able to separate from her. Wow, that was a surprise. "Miss me already?" I said while her hand slid up my chest. She had jumped me in the shower. I should have locked the door. Sometimes I pissed even myself off. "Not just you," she said in a seductive tone. Suddenly her hand moved to my lower regions and I let out a yelp in response. I just wanted to take a shower and forget this ever even happened. Was that so much to ask? I grabbed her wrist to stop her. She must have misunderstood my intentions because she gave me a playful smile. Wasn't last night enough? I said, trying to appear flirty, but in actuality I meant it. I was sick just looking at this chick. It wasn't her fault, but to me she was just a reminder of how toxic I've become. I'm sure she was probably a nice girl, but if she wanted some more action she'd have to kill me first. It was more than enough. In fact, so good I thought we'd go for another round, she responded. I knew it. Usually I'd be down, but that kiss was just so nasty, and holy shit. Now her damn hand was moving. I had to stop this. I lifted her up, making her shriek in excitement. If only she knew. After opening the door to my shower, I literally carried her out of my bathroom. I placed her down in the hallway. She stared at me, completely confused by my actions, dripping wet. Sorry, doll. I then closed the door, leaving her in the hallway alone to her thoughts. This was all Sakura's fault, I thought as I shampooed my messy locks. She just had to go be all wishy-washy with her feelings and piss me off again. And I just had to be the idiot and not listen to my own advice about being stronger. Stupid feelings. Stupid love. I was a mess. A giant hungover, lonely mess. I turned the shower faucet with so much anger I almost broke it. I hoped me throwing that girl into the hallway butt naked was enough to scare her away. I came out the bathroom drying my hair with a towel and went to my room to get some clothes, but guess who was still here now wearing my t-shirt? It was one of my favorite shirts too, bright orange with a black collar. Well, at least I didn't have to worry about slipping and splitting my head trying to fight her off now. She looked at me like a piece of steak. This girl was not taking no for an answer. I really didn't need this right now. The shower's free if you need to, you know, I said sort of awkwardly. She walked over to me, swaying her hips. Her hands ran up my forearms and she circled me like a bird closing in on their prey. I've got a better idea. Oh God, shoot me now. Suddenly I was being pushed onto the bed, the towel around my waist nearly sliding off. She then climbed onto me like she was climbing a tree and pinned me to the bed. I began to suspect I was the one being fucked last night, rather than the other way around. You sit back and let me take care of you, she said, raising an eyebrow. Her hand reached for my towel. Oh hell no. I flipped over so that I was on top of her. I had it. I slid my hand against her leg slowly. She sighed in delight as my hand eventually went up her shirt. Well, my shirt. Okay, you win, I said, looking her in her hazel eyes. Stay right here, I'll be right back. She nodded and I disappeared into the hallway and opened one of my closets for my old Halloween costume. If this didn't scare her away, I was calling the cops. I re-entered the room with a wolf mask on and baseball bat. I could see through the eye holes her quickly sit up and look at me in horror. Oh, she was getting me out of my apartment. I was about to make sure of that. All right, let's do this, I said, approaching her. Wait, what is all this? She said, covering her mouth. She was shaking. I almost bursted into laughter under my mask at her reaction. Oh, you mean my outfit? I never did tell you, but I was a wolf in my last life, and when it comes down to sex I like to feel closer to my true self. Last night I messed up because I was drunk, but I want to do it right this time. Now she was really freaked out. I wanted to laugh so bad. In the bat, she asked. Oh, this is for you. Just in case I go overboard. Masters have to discipline their dogs properly, I responded. She shot up out of my bed like it was on fire. Master, what's wrong? I asked, watching her collect her things. Oh, this was too hilarious. On second thought, I really should be leaving. She didn't look at me as she slipped her pants on. I wanted my shirt back too. Oh, so soon. Well, at least you have my shirt. I marked it with my scent just like the other wolves taught me. She paused her movements for a moment as if she was really processing what I said, then quickly took the shirt off and tossed it on the ground. I followed her as she left my bedroom, watching her scramble to put on the rest of her own clothes, and just as she was opening the door to leave, I barked at her. I had never seen anyone run out a door so fast. Once she was gone, I was rolling on the floor laughing hysterically. Then the quietness of my apartment creeped in like a cold breeze, and with it the thoughts and feelings I was trying to repress. What was I doing? Drinking and sleeping around to forget. Just how long would this cycle continue? My smile faded and I was on my feet once again. I needed noise. I couldn't be alone to my thoughts right now. I turned on my TV. Crimson Corp has now expanded to the United States, making it one of Japan's biggest corporations. I immediately turned it off. This wasn't working. I ran into my room to get some clothes. It was funny. Here I was trying to chase that girl out of my apartment, but now that I was alone I couldn't stand it. I needed to be surrounded by noise, by people. The worst things that ever happened to me in my life always happened while I was alone. My thoughts during these times have never been kind either. A complex, maybe. I blame it on my lonely childhood. It was the reason I was never home. I put on my shoes and went out the door. I didn't know where I was going, I just knew I had to leave. In my car I blasted my music as loud as I could. That was better. Noise. But once I passed by my lovely job at the hospital, that all changed. I couldn't turn my music up any higher and I couldn't escape my thoughts of her. Fucking hell. I was pressing harder on the gas. A drink. No, it was too early. I felt like I was sinking into a pool of self-pity. I sit down and give advice about life to all my friends on what they should do to fix their lives and how to be happy, but I can't even get my shit together, I said. I didn't even know where I was at this point, but I kept driving. You fall apart over one girl, seriously. At the red light I looked over at a building that looked familiar to me, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I heard a ding sound coming from my pocket and checked my phone. Hey, you forgot my morning motivational message, JK. I hope you're doing okay and conquering this day. Hinata, that was right. Wasn't that her condo? HPOV. And then I hit him upside the head. I covered my mouth laughing hard at the pinkette next to me as she told me one of her stories. She had taken me up on my offer, and after work we went for a walk in the park getting food from the local food trucks. She was different, loud and charismatic, the total opposite of me but in a good way. It was like she was the yin to my yang. I could tell we would become great friends. I can't believe you, Sakura. How are you able to do these things? Aren't you afraid of how people will look at you? I asked, biting into my shish kebab. She looked up into the air. Well, I look at it as this. Life is too short, you know. She balled up her fist in determination and looked at me. So live it to the fullest. You shouldn't let others weigh you down. Her words touched me on a personal level. I felt a surge of motivation flow through me, almost like how I felt talking to Naruto. Like with that stupid boss of yours. I'm still heated thinking about him, she said with a growl. Yeah, he is. Difficult, but I don't know, you get used to it, I responded. Sakura stopped walking and looked at me with seriousness. It unsettled me. She then put 2 hands on my shoulders and looked me in the eye. Never allow yourself to get used to mistreatment. There was something in her eyes that told me what she said had a deeper meaning to her, like she was telling me from experience. The only redeeming quality about that guy is his face. I'll admit he's pretty hot, she said, changing the subject. I laughed. Really? He's not my type, I responded. There's something about those eyes. They're hypnotic, she continued. She then stopped again, this time in front of a ramen truck. What? Did you want to get some ramen too? I asked, walking up to her. I was surprised to see her suddenly sad. She stared at the truck with glassy eyes. Sakura W, what's wrong? I asked frantically. Huh? She faced me and smiled in embarrassment. Sorry, I got lost and thought let's keep going, I think I see our cars. She then walked a little ahead of me. There was something on her mind. It was obviously saddening, but I didn't want to push. Say, Hinata, she asked as she walked. Yeah. Have you ever been afraid of falling in love? I knew it. There was something on her mind. I wondered if she was struggling with love just like me. If she was, I would become a shoulder she could lean on like Naruto was to me. Afraid? Well, I wouldn't say that, I said, trying to catch up with her. She let me catch up with her but didn't look at me once. I've always wanted to be a doctor since I was little. There's something about being in a hospital and helping people that just moved me. I put all I had into literal blood, sweat, and tears, and I can't help but think that in love you should do the same, she said. I wondered if that ramen shop is what triggered these thoughts. Still, I didn't ask any questions, I just listened. Well, yes and no. Loving someone shouldn't feel like a task, it should be natural and something you want to do. However, being in a relationship does require some effort to keep it functioning and strong, I replied. My thoughts wandered to Kiba and I grimaced. Perfect example of what not to do. Sakura began to frown. But that's just it. Doesn't the what if scare you a bit? What if I can't put as much effort into a relationship as I do my work? I have all these feelings of compassion, she said, putting a hand on her chest. These desires to be with someone and grow old like regular people. But what if it fails, just like my past relationships, and my wounds keep me from giving it my all? Sakura looked at me and I could see some of myself in her. That confident mask had cracked just a little bit. Is there someone in your life you care for more than anything? She asked. Kiba's face flashed into my mind again. I would care about him until I died. Yeah, I responded. Imagine you were me. With all these wounds and insecurities you kept locked away, and this person wanted to be with you, and you think you sort of did too, but you were too scared to make a move because of your demons, she said. Wait, could that be how Kiba felt? You're scared you'll ruin the perfect being that they are and taint them, but at the same time not being with them might just hurt them even more. You want to do the right thing, you wish time would just freaking stop, but it can't because you've crossed the line, she said softly. Was that the reason he pushed me away? Why he wanted time to stop? And now you're stuck having to face your fears because your time's up. What would you do? What was left of my kebab fell onto the ground. Sakura's face changed to worry as she rested her hands onto my shoulder. Oh geez, what the hell am I saying? You barely know me, but here I am telling you my whole life story. I'm sorry, she rambled. Tell them, I said. What? She replied. I looked at her with my own seriousness now. Tell them. Whoever it is you're talking about, tell them what you're feeling, because I guarantee they have no idea. You said it yourself, life was too short not to speak your mind. Why throw that rule away when it comes to love? Something changed in her gaze. But what if I hurt him? She said surprisingly meekly. This time I rested my hands on her shoulders. Either way, he's hurting and you're hurting. If he's worth it, you'd have to be willing to take the risk. You might be missing out on a soulmate if you don't try. Sakura slowly smiled gratefully at me and took me into her arms. I was shocked, but I eventually hugged her back. You're an angel, Hinata. I swear us meeting was fate. Thank you, she said in my arms. I felt the same. She had opened my eyes to a lot of things and changes I needed to make to myself in a matter of hours. We were now outside our cars saying our last goodbyes. We exchanged numbers, of course, and promised to keep in touch. When your friend gets better, we should all get drinks someday, she said from her car. Sure thing, it was great talking to you, Sakura, I said from mine. And with one last wave she was off. I felt both happy that I met Sakura, but sad at what she made me realize. I looked at Kiba's contact info. He had sent me a text a few hours ago. Please don't hate me. I will never forgive myself if you do. I just want to hear your voice. Please, Hinata. I almost screamed in frustration. Just when I thought I knew what to do about this situation, I fall apart again. I wanted to call him. I wanted to hear his voice too. I missed him. God, did I miss him. I didn't even realize I was crying until I felt my teardrops hit my thigh. As I drove home, he was all I thought about. It was a battlefield in my head. Talk to him again versus don't you fucking do it. All I wanted to do was drown my sorrows, preferably with wine. I think I still had some in my fridge. I was a sobbing mess as I left my car and hit the elevator button that led to my condo. The employees in the lobby didn't even say anything to me as they watched me enter the elevator. It was a sight they were probably used to by now. As I walked to my door, I noticed someone sitting by it. Naruto slowly lifted his head and pulled his headphones out. He looked as if he had just come down from an emotional breakdown himself. "What took you so fucking long?" he said dully. He stood and studied me. I must have looked crazy to him with all the crying I did. Still, his eyes softened with concern and he placed a hand on my cheek. "Oh God, don't tell me you're all broken up about being in the friend zone too," he said. "Why were we so similar?" "Why yeah," I wailed before sobbing uncontrollably again. He took me in his arms and squeezed me tight as I destroyed his shirt with my tear and snot combo. "People suck," he said, pressing his cheek against my ear. "Aha," I said between my tears. We stood there in the hallway holding each other and swaying slightly, with the sound of my crying and his swearing filling the silence. I splashed my face with water and looked at myself in the mirror of my bathroom. My eyes were still slightly swollen, but at least I wasn't a snotty mess anymore. I walked into my living room quickly, feeling slightly embarrassed by my hysterical crying. Naruto sat on my couch watching some sort of crime drama, shirtless because, well, wet and slimy wasn't a fashion trend. I wonder if the washing machine could save the shirt. Hi, I said, approaching the couch. It was all I could think to say after that crazy episode in the hallway. I was such a crybaby. He looked up at me from the couch and gave me a reassuring smile. "Don't you go and be all awkward now. You're not the first girl to cry on me, as weird as that sounds." "It's fine," he said. He read me like a book. I gave him an awkward grin and nodded my head. He then patted the spot next to him. "Sit." I obeyed. We both sat there watching the TV in silence for many minutes. I wasn't sure what to say. There were so many questions and emotions in my head, yet just trying to form words right now was difficult for me. Part of me wished we could stay in silence like this, but I was worried about him too. He never came to visit me before. In fact, I was surprised he remembered where my apartment was. "So you're not going to tell me what happened?" he said, still looking at the screen. Oh no, I wasn't going to allow myself to be the only one ranting this time. Too many times has he sat there with his own troubles, and yet not making 1 ounce of an effort to tell me his issues. "How about you? You were waiting outside my condo." "Why?" I replied. I scooted closer to him and brought my knees into my chest. He sucked his teeth and rested the back of his head against my couch. He was obviously irritated. "I asked you first. I'm a guy, you know, we don't like talking about our feelings. But you came to my home," I argued. "You must have had a reason to, right?" He was silent. A good old silent treatment. I see how he was going to play. He'd listen to all my issues, and the moment I asked him to do the same, he'd shut me out. I stood up, catching his attention. "You want some wine?" "I have some in my fridge," I offered. Maybe a drink would relax him. Hoping to loosen me up, "So I will tell you." "Nice try, girlie," he said blankly. I frowned at him. Now I was becoming irritated. "There's something obviously on your mind. Why come over here if you're not going to even speak to me? I'm worried about you. Aren't we friends?" I said, storming off into the kitchen. I ripped the fridge open and began pouring myself a glass of wine. All I wanted was to help him. Why was he being so difficult? Why didn't he trust me like I did him? I let out a sigh after sipping my wine. Of course he didn't trust me. We hadn't known each other that long. Maybe I was the only one who felt that they could take off their mask completely in this friendship right now. "That's right, calm down, Hinata, you're emotional." I saw Naruto's head pop in from around the corner. He had a guilty look on his face. "Sorry, I'm being a dick," he said, slowly entering the room. I frowned at him. Yeah, my thoughts drifted for a moment, but I am too. He sat on one of the stools by my island. "Can I have some?" he asked me, holding up a glass that I left on the counter. "Well, you know us girls, we love our wine, so I don't know," I said mockingly and clutching my bottle. He smiled his cute smile. "Come on, I'm sad." "Don't be that way," he said with a chuckle. I poured him a glass anyway and sat across from him. I observed him as he drank, taking in the sadness in his eyes. I hated it. He was always so warm and full of life. I was the one who was always down in the dumps. It hurt my soul to see him like this. "I'm not sure why I came here, to be honest," he said, running a hand through his messy blonde hair. "I needed company, I guess, and I've always liked yours," he said. I smiled at him, touched by his words. "How long were you sitting out there?" I said, motioning to outside. "An hour or two, I'm not sure," he said. "Why didn't you call me? Or text me?" I asked in shock. "What happened before you came here?" He hesitated, swishing the wine in his glass. "Naruto-kun, you're going to make yourself sick bottling everything up. Not everyone's the enemy. There are people who genuinely care and want what's best for you. I happen to be one of those people," I said. "I hate talking about these kind of things," he said. "And I hate seeing you tear yourself up from the inside," I replied. His blue eyes met mine. There was this sense of uncertainty coming from them, but he finally began to tell me. "I was chasing a girl out of my apartment. Well, first my shower, then the apartment," he said, taking another sip of wine. Okay, well, this was unexpected. So he was having one of those kind of mornings. He was a grown man, he could do whatever he wanted, even though I didn't understand it. Judging by the way he reacted that time I let him sleep off his drunkenness at my condo during our first meeting, something told me this was a regular occurrence for him. I gulped my wine, trying to appear indifferent. He laughed at my reaction. I know what you're thinking. Hey, I'm trying to break free from my whorish tendencies, I promise. It's just how I deal with my emotions for the time being. Kind of like you with alcohol. I looked away from him and blushed slightly. Whatever. And then, that can't be the reason you're down, I said, encouraging him to speak. Again there was hesitation. I was fine, but then I was left alone with my thoughts and I just couldn't deal with it. He folded his arms on the counter. Yesterday I ran into her. It had been a while since I had heard about this girl that had been giving him so much heartache. In fact, he hadn't brought her up since that night I found him drunk. It was always me ranting about Kiba. I felt bad that I never pressed him before to rant. He looked hesitant again. Getting him to open up was like pulling teeth. He looked almost scared. I could tell something from his past was gnawing at him, because I'd wore that same look before. What happened? I said, resting a hand on his arm. Did you fight again? He looked at me sadly. Sort of. I tried to ignore her like I have been doing, but she didn't let up this time. I was even mean to her. There was regret laced in his stare. Yet somehow we ended up talking again and I confronted her. How'd she react? She looked like she was ready to tell the truth, but she got scared again and ran from me. Naruto rested his head on the counter and looked away. Every time she's in my grasp she slips between my fingers, he said, looking at his hand. I rested my head on the table to look him in the eyes. Maybe she's not ready. Maybe she has her own demons she needs to fight first, I said. My conversation with my new pink-haired friend earlier flashed in my mind. Naruto looked back at me sorrowfully. He was in so much pain. I just wanted to hug him tightly. I get that, but what am I supposed to do with my feelings? He responded. Try to be just as strong as you usually are, I said with a smile. Then decide if she's worth biting the bullet for. That's all you can do. He smiled back sadly. I guess you're right. He lifted his head from the table. It's just I wish I didn't have to think about it. I lifted my head too and fixed my hair. Me too, I couldn't help but think of Kiba. I opened my wine bottle and poured myself another glass. I offered Naruto some, but he shook his head no. There was a reflective silence that fell over us. Naruto-kun, I said. Yeah, he replied. Does sex really help calm you down? I asked. Naruto looked at me with large eyes. I felt like that was a question better left in my head, but this damn wine was giving me diarrhea of the mouth. Oh well, it was out there, I might as well roll with it. What? He said in disbelief. My cheeks dusted pink like I was the Virgin Mary. It was just my friend was telling me it helps sometimes when you're trying to get over someone or stressing out, like a miracle drug or something, I stuttered. Miracle drug. Now I couldn't tell if the wine was making me stupid or I was really that dumb. Naruto roared with laughter. He held his stomach and almost knocked over my glass. He was laughing so hard. God, this was so embarrassing. Man, you sure know how to shift a mood, he said, choking on laughter. He then looked at me with a smirk on his face. Oh, so little Hinata here wants to know if a good old bone will clear her mind and cleanse her soul. I frowned as he then began laughing again. It wasn't that funny. Are you done? I said, watching him. Sorry, he said between his breaths. I'm just shocked, you know. My cheeks somehow reddened further. Just forget I asked. I looked away from him and pouted at my stupidity. It's a temporary high, he finally responded. I looked back at him. He was slightly more serious now. It's like drinking. Once you're sober, reality kicks in and all that stress and depression comes back. He looked into his empty wine glass. It seemed like his mind was elsewhere as he said this. So why do you do it? I asked. Well, Naruto said, relaxing into his seat. Sometimes it's for that temporary high and sometimes it's because a girl's really hot and I'm really horny. I nearly spit out my wine hearing that last part. He smirked at me again. I'm a guy after all. There I went, asking stupid questions again. I'm guessing you were hoping that would help you stop thinking about that guy of yours, huh? He asked. I nodded my head, a little ashamed that I actually considered it. Why was it even on my mind? Was I that sad and lonely that I was willing to go out and have meaningless sex just to rid myself of this feeling? I placed a fist to my chest. Kiba had really broke me, huh? Naruto looked at me sadly as my mind wandered, then suddenly sat straighter and put a hand to his chin and thought. Say, Hinata, you want to ditch this place? He said. I looked at him questionably. The look in his eyes told me he had some sort of plan forming in his mind. What do you mean? I said, watching him rise from his seat. He walked over to me and took both of my hands, gently pulling me out of my seat. Let's go out, he said, flashing those cute dimples at me. Come on, it's better than staying cooped up here stewing in our depression. He wasn't wrong, but after my crying fest I wasn't sure I had the energy to go out and do anything. I just wanted to watch TV and drink more wine. I don't know, I responded. It'll be fun. Come on, what happened to trying new things and discovering yourself? He said, looking down at me. There's this great club not too far from here. It's a good time, I promise. Club? I haven't been to one in years and I don't have anything to wear. I said. More excuses. Man, he wasn't gonna take no for an answer, was he? Hinata, you're hot. You will look good in anything, he responded. I blushed slightly. The way he complimented me was always so casual, like it just rolled off his tongue. It was hard to tell if it held any meaning or if he was trying to butter me up. I looked up into his blue eyes and saw there was light beginning to sparkle in them again. I missed that. I didn't want to see them so pained again. People like him needed to smile all the time. I wanted to cheer him up for once, and maybe he was right, maybe I would have a good time. I decided. Oh okay, I said. His smile was wide and toothy, and he took me in his arms again, pressing me against his bare chest. We are gonna have a good time, I promise, he said, resting his cheek into my hair. He was so warm and strong. That piercing pain in my chest once again numbed being in his arms. This was what I needed in my life. To be surrounded by warmth and positivity, and Naruto was an excellent source. He released me from his grasp and looked at me. And if you're nice, I'll teach you my art of seduction and get you some guys. Since you seem to be craving a certain something. I pinched him on his shoulder as hard as I could, and he let out a half yelp, half laugh sort of sound. Smart ass. Still I smiled at him. Come help me pick out an outfit then, I said, walking towards my bedroom. Well, an invitation to your bedroom. He shook his head and followed me. See, you already failed. You don't want to do that right away. You want to leave them begging and tease them a bit. You didn't even try to flirt with me a little first, and I'm tipsy. Looks like you really do need my help, he said with a cocky look. Shut up, I said over my shoulder. His shocked face made me die in laughter. NPOV. Stop that. What? I replied, smiling widely. We were back at my apartment for a quick pit stop. If we were going to a club, I had to look my best, and as nice as my body was, I wasn't getting into any club in the area shirtless, especially when I had to compete with Hinata in the looks department. I somehow had gotten her to wear this off-the-shoulder dark purple top and skirt two-piece that her friend had bought her for her birthday, and man did she look good. I couldn't understand how a girl like her could struggle with self-esteem when she had a body like that. I had been gawking at her the whole ride here. She pulled down her skirt over her thighs and glared at me. The staring. You keep staring at me like a piece of meat, she said. It's embarrassing. Get used to it. I'm not gonna be the only one, I said. I dodged her hand before it could hit me in my head. She pouted at me cutely. I'm having second thoughts about this. Don't. I'm gonna have fun too, but I'll also be your personal bodyguard, so no one's gonna touch you. I promise, I responded. I raised my eyebrows at her. Unless you suddenly have a change of heart. She rolled her eyes and began wandering around my apartment. This was her first time seeing it. It was pretty boring and small compared to her lavish condo, but it was home. Pretty shitty place, huh? I said, watching her now move to my kitchen. No, I like it, she said. She picked up a fox-shaped mug and giggled. You're lying, I said, crossing my arms. No, she chuckled. I do, it's very cute. She nearly stepped onto an old takeout box I had laying on the ground and froze. But messy, very messy, she then said. I laughed. Well, you never heard of modern art? I said, picking up the cup off the floor. Garbage is in. This whole apartment could be featured in an art museum. I could make some serious change. She picked up an empty orange juice carton and grimaced. Somehow I doubt that, she said, making me laugh once again. Why don't you go take a seat on the couch? I promise that's clean. I pointed to my room with my thumb. While I get changed real quick and come back looking sexier than I already do. I stopped walking to my room and looked back at her. Unless you want to join me, I teased. She shook her head with a smile on her face and plopped onto my couch. Hurry up. Yes, ma'am, I said, saluting her as I backed up into my room. It had been a while since I'd been to a club myself. Ever since I got serious about pursuing secure, I dialed back a bit. I opened my closet and began combing through my clothes. To be honest, I wasn't sure what I was hoping to achieve by doing this. Sure, I wanted to help Hinata. That girl needed a bit of fun in her life. She was a fragile soul who spent way too much time crying by herself. She needed experience and confidence. I guess the problem solver in me wanted to fix her up since we had similar issues going on. But what was I getting out of this? Loyalty, good karma. I settled on a black form-fitting shirt with a brown leather jacket to go over and a pair of navy blue skinny jeans. I wore black boots and a gray chain necklace with a leaf symbol hanging from it to complete the look. To think I was helping someone with their life when I could barely get mine together. Was I crazy? Who in their right mind would do that, especially for someone they haven't known for long? What was it about this girl that made me want to help her? I messed with my hair for a bit, sprayed on some cologne, and I was done. I walked out my room with a scrambled mind. Now tell me I don't look go. I noticed Hinata laying across my couch with her eyes closed. She looked like a painting, her hair perfectly fanned out across the cushions, her long lashes and soft facial features coated with what was left of the sun coming in from the windows. It was something so breathtaking I had to stop moving and take it all in. God, was she beautiful. Don't tell me I took so long you fell asleep, I said, slowly approaching her. Her feathery lashes fluttered open slightly at the sound of my voice, the sun turning the lavender of her eyes almost a pink color. No, I was just thinking, she replied. I kneeled down next to her, while her gaze focused on my ceiling fan. About? I asked. She flipped over onto her side, her sweet fragrance danced with my senses. We were now facing each other. You, she answered. Something about the bluntness of her tone sent my blood pressure shooting through the roof. This was so unlike me. I swallowed hard before questioning her. What? For some reason that was all that came to my mind. I was thinking about how great you are, she clarified with a chuckle. You're always rooting for me, pushing me outside of my comfort zone, saving the day. You seriously owe me nothing, but you're willing to go out of your way for me. She smiled and thought, to think we were strangers not too long ago. It's really admirable. You're such an amazing person, Naruto-kun. The kindness of her words warmed my heart. It was only then that I realized that I wasn't used to receiving such words. It softened the hard shell I had built up around me. She too had an impact on my life. This was the most open I'd been with anyone in a long time. So thank you, she said, her smile deepening. I know I keep saying it, but I'm so glad I went to the Nindo that night. There it was. My reason for doing all of this was crystal clear. That smile. It was something I wanted to preserve. It was like a powerful medicine that healed all my wounds. If I could keep her smiling, then I could smile too. I could feel my lips curl up into a smile of their own. Me too. I could feel the beat of the music drumming in my chest when we entered. Standing in the doorway in awe, I took in the mixture of neon lights and bodies moving along the dance floor. The air was thick. The smell of alcohol and various body scents covered every inch of the space. The bright lights, loud music, and chatter combo seemed to almost intimidate me. Naruto squeezed my hand, bringing me back to my senses, showing his support. He pushed my hair back and spoke into my ear. Don't you worry, I'm right here, he said under the blaring music, his breath tickling my ear. I looked at him kindly and nodded and increased my grip on his hand. I could feel eyes on us already as weaved through the crowd. More so on Naruto than anything, but who could blame them? It was hard for even me to take my eyes off of him. He was so tall and handsome. He walked with so much confidence, his strides powerful and mesmerizing. What the hell was wrong with me? We reached an area away from the crowd and closer to the bar. Naruto separated from me to greet a guy with silver hair and a mask covering the lower half of his mouth who came out from around the bar. I panicked a little and didn't move a muscle. They exchanged a few words, Naruto's eyes occasionally wandering to me. They were definitely talking about me. He and the other guy then turned to me and Naruto motioned for me to join them with his index finger. I was a bit nervous, but with a smile like that, who could object? Don't be nervous, he said, slinging his arm around me. I want to introduce you to someone. The man with silver hair looked at me friendlily. Though I couldn't see his mouth, I could tell he was smiling. This is a former teacher of mine, Kakashi. When he's not teaching, he's taking care of this club, Naruto said, gesturing to him with his hand. Kakashi, this is my friend Hinata. Kakashi stuck his hand out. Nice to meet you, Hinata. I shook his hand and smiled. Naruto was just telling me about your predicament. My smile dropped. I gave Naruto a look and he was quick to clarify. He's agreed to be an extra set of eyes for the night. I told him you were a little nervous about coming here. I wanted you to feel extra safe, he said. My face softened. Oh, thank you, that was really nice of you, I said to Kakashi. Hey, any friend of Naruto is a friend of mine. He was my student, Kakashi said cheerfully. Kakashi then lifted his eyebrows and thought. Though I have to say I think this is the first time he's brought a date with him to this club. Kakashi came a bit closer to me with teasing intent. You seem to really have him whipped. I reddened at his misunderstanding and choked on my own words. And no W or aren't. Naruto gave Kakashi a playful shove and laughed. Hey, stop messing with her. What, a guy and girl can't be friends? We're just here to escape our crazy lives and have some fun. Plus you already know I've got my eye on a certain girl. Ah, that girl. You're still obsessed with her after all these years, huh? He said teasingly. You bet. Now stop messing around and get us some drinks, will you? Naruto said, settling into a seat by the bar. I joined him, ignoring the weird pain feeling settling in my gut. Was I getting sick? We sat at the bar chatting for a little bit. He seemed so comfortable, like he was in his element, while I was struggling to keep myself from throwing back drink after drink. What was I doing here again? I was all awkward and goosebumpy. My eyes wandered to the dance floor where there was a group of girls laughing and dancing wildly. Oh, that's right, fun. I was supposed to be having fun. Another, I said, holding up my empty glass to Kakashi. Whoa, Tiger, what did we say about the drinking? Naruto said, putting a hand on my wrist. I placed my other hand on top of his. I'll be fine, I promise, it's only my second drink, I pleaded. We stared at each other, challenging each other in our heads. The gurgling sound of my glass snapped us out of it. Kakashi, Naruto yelled. What, it's only her second drink. She's a grown woman, let her have her fun. You did bring her to a club, he said, filling my glass. I gave him a grateful smile and Kakashi winked at me in response. I then brought my drink to my lips with a victorious chuckle. Naruto smirked back. Fine, but I've got my eye on you, missy, he said, poking my shoulder. The liquid warmed my stomach and suddenly it was like I was hearing the music in the club for the first time. I began to sway to the beat in my seat. Naruto gave me a questionable look. He pointed a limp finger at me. What you doing there, he said, amused by my seated dance moves. I like this song, I said, rocking to the music. I see that, he responded with a chuckle. All of a sudden something sparked in me and that dance floor didn't seem so scary. I slid off my seat and stood in front of him. I saw something almost flirty sparkle in his eyes as he looked back at me, and all of a sudden it was like Kakashi wasn't here. Maybe it was the skirt. Another weird feeling bubbled up in me. I liked it. The alcohol wiped me of any nerves and I stuck my hand out to him. Want to go like this song together? I said. I nodded my head in the direction of the dance floor out there. God, that sounded better in my head. He wet his lips and scratched his neck as if to think it over, then held his drink up. Now I'm gonna finish my drink and catch up with Kakashi. I'll join you in a bit. I felt a little disappointed. Guess not all my feelings were numbed. Maybe I imagined that look in his eyes. As a matter of fact, why do I care? That's right, it was the alcohol talking, not me. Suit yourself, I said, shrugging my shoulders. I wasn't embarrassed that he rejected me. No, I'd go out there and have my own fun. That was the plan, wasn't it? I walked away, feeling his eyes watching me as I entered the crowd. I then became lost in my thoughts as my hips swayed along with the beat of the music. Why did I feel so irritated? Our whole point of coming here was to cheer up. I needed to stop caring and let loose. Maybe drinking that much was a bad idea. Still, my eyes found Naruto through the crowd. There was some girl chatting him up, but he didn't seem interested. His eyes were on me as I danced. I swallowed hard. Why was he looking at me like that? Oh right, he said he'd watch over me so nothing bad happened. I continued to dance, but his eyes didn't leave me for an instant. They seemed to become more intense with each movement I made, like an animal stalking their prey. Did he feel it too? That weird warm feeling in his gut that made his mouth water and his limbs tingle. Why did I want his eyes to stay on me? Why did I feel the need to sensualize my dance moves? Why did I wonder if you could taste the alcohol on his lips? Hey beautiful. I felt some hands slide around my waist, instantly wiping my thoughts. I slipped out of the grasp of this stranger and faced him. His dazzling amber eyes could not be hidden under the bright lights. He was definitely attractive, built, with a beard giving him that extra touch of masculinity. Tenten would be all over this guy if she was here, yet something fell flat for me. I saw you when you first came in and I couldn't keep my eyes off you, he whispered in my ear. For whatever reason, as he spoke, my eyes were on Naruto again. His eyes still were on me and he leaned forward as if he wasn't sure if he should come get me or not. That's when I realized that this guy was still talking to me. Somehow I tuned him out. So what do you say? Huh, I said, dazed. He chuckled, his voice deep and husky. I said, won't you dance with me? You're pretty good. Oh, I responded. This was what I came for, wasn't it? A distraction. This guy was perfect, attractive, somewhat polite because he didn't just start dancing on me, yet for some reason I wasn't interested in dancing with him or dancing anymore for that matter. My eyes met Naruto's again. He seemed confused now. Sorry, actually I was just getting ready to head back to the bar to join my friend, I whispered into his ear. Well, that's fine, maybe I could Jay. I didn't give him a chance to respond. I began elbowing my way through the crowd, leaving him speechless. By the time I was back at the bar, I was breathing hard. Again, what was wrong with me? What happened? Naruto asked as I sat in my seat. Nothing, I responded. I held up my glass to Kakashi. Another round, please. Naruto raised a single eyebrow as if he had me all figured out. He leaned towards me and smiled at me mischievously. Thought he looked even better up close, his blue eyes brighter than some of the lights in here. You chickened out, didn't you? Did not. You totally did, he said, laughing. He brought his drink to his lips with a wide grin. What, he popped in your mind or something? I shoved him and crossed my arms. Well, I didn't want to say that he was way more appealing than that guy was. In fact, Kiba wasn't even in my mind. I swear the alcohol was making me crazy, but I couldn't stop drinking. It was as if I was scared that once I stopped and I sobered up, I would find out this feeling wasn't the alcohol after all. I was watching you dance out there. I looked back at him. He had that look in his eye I saw from before. Hunger. Yeah, I responded. You surprised me. I didn't pin you as a dancer, he said. I caught his eyes quickly, looked me over. You were great. Where'd you learn to move like that? It was funny, but I felt butterflies. That guy out there on the dance floor said something similar to me, yet nothing. What was it about Naruto? Was it because he was someone I admire? Or, it was hard to take my eyes off you. Attraction. There it was. What I was feeling was attraction. I was attracted to Naruto. I mean, I always thought he was good looking, but this was something different. There was a burning sensation in me, like everything he did was making me hot, and suddenly the spot at the V of his shirt where you could see a little bit of his chest was irritating me. I was drunk. I had to be. Hinata. Were his lips always so perfect? I felt a hand on my shoulder slightly shake me. Oh wait, it was Naruto's. Yeah, I said, blinking rapidly. I heard Kakashi chuckle at me. Okay, I'm not giving her any more drinks, he said. Still looking at Naruto, I slowly grasped his hand that was on my shoulder. His eyes didn't leave mine either. Suddenly another familiar song played through the speakers. I drew circles on the back of his hand with my thumb. I think you owe me a dance. The grin that formed on his face was flirty and confident. I think you're right, he said. He leaped from his seat and I joined him. But are you sure you want to do that? I'm a beast on the dance floor, I don't want to outshine you, he said. Okay, no more drinks for you either, Kakashi said, making me laugh. I'll take my chances, I said coyly. I led him to the dance floor, our hands connected and his eyes wandering all over my body again. Once we were out there, it was as if I had went to another club. I was actually enjoying myself. Naruto had me fully entertained with his dorky dance moves. I hadn't laughed or smiled this much in a while. The music infected me like a virus, the beat flowing through my body, excitement flooding my veins and my hips, my shoulders and arms under its complete control. When the music slowed down a bit and somehow the distance between Naruto and I had closed, I pulled my hair over one of my shoulders as he slowly approached me from behind. His breath fanned my shoulder as we moved in sync. There was that tingling feeling in the pit of my gut. His fingers just barely grazed my hip and I swore I had felt electricity shoot through me when my eye caught someone. Kiba. I could barely recognize him under the neon lights. He looked different, slightly thinner and unshaven from what I could see. Some blonde danced against him, grinding her skinny body against him like she was trying to start a fire. My stomach dropped and it felt like those drinks were coming back up. Hinata, Naruto said. His lips teased my ear and his voice was deep and breathy. You're driving me. Just then Kiba's eyes met mine and panic set in. I turned around, accidentally smacking my head into Naruto's chin. I am sorry, I said, touching his chin while he grimaced. I looked over my shoulder to see that Kiba was moving through the crowd rapidly towards us. Naruto then took my chin in his hand and turned my head towards him. "What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, looking at me with concern. I looked at him with wide, panicked eyes. "He's here." Naruto looked behind me. "Well, I'll be damned," he said, watching Kiba desperately shoving his way through the crowd. "Let's go," Naruto said, grabbing my hand. He gave Kakashi a sign that I think that meant he was leaving, because he just waved in response. We two were now pushing through the crowd. I dared to look behind me as Naruto pulled me through endless sweaty, drunk bodies. Kiba still was following us. He was yelling. I couldn't tell if it was at me or the people in his way. His eyes were so sad it hurt. I felt sick, like I was the worst woman on the planet. We were finally out of the club. Naruto rested his hands on his knees, breathing hard. We can't stay here, lover boy's bound to catch up," he said, straightening up. I nodded my head limply. He looked at me sadly and grabbed my hand. "It's going to be okay. You have to be strong." He quickly pulled me down the street in search for a cab. We both were too drunk to drive. I was so out of it I didn't even realize I had gotten into a cab until Naruto started giving directions. He was there. He saw me with Naruto. I felt a familiar feeling in my eyes. I didn't want to cry, especially when I didn't understand the reason for my tears. "Stop thinking so much." I looked to Naruto as he took off his jacket and draped it over my shoulder. His stare was kind. "You had fun before you saw him, right? I killed it on the dance floor, didn't I?" He forced a smile out of me as I remembered his silly dance moves. I rested my head on his shoulder. "You were great." I was surprised when the taxi arrived at my condo, and even more when Naruto stepped out with me. "Let me walk you. I don't want you to fall over. You're drunk," he said. "Like you're not drunk too," I responded. He stuck his tongue out at me and followed me as we entered the building. Once we reached my condo, I offered him some water to help him sober up. "You sure you don't want to stay over? I could make you something better to sober you up before you go," I said, reaching into my cabinet to get a glass. Naruto sat on my couch and fanned away my comment. "Nah, I'll be okay. I'm not that drunk. Some water and time will do the trick." "Ugh, I'm gonna regret this tomorrow," I said, laying my head on the arm of my couch. Naruto grabbed my feet and rested them on his lap. "Thanks. No problem. I don't understand how girls can dance in those things," he replied. I shook my head. "Not that. I mean, yes, but thank you for today. You really cheered me up." "Again, stop thanking me. That's what friends are for." "You cheered me up too," he said with a smile. There it was again, that weird feeling. I forced myself to smile despite it. "It's too bad tonight had to end so quickly though," he said. My mind flashed to Kiba and my smile faded. "Yeah, it was too bad," I replied. He noticed my change in face expressions and I could tell he felt bad. "You running away when that guy tried to dance with you was definitely one of the highlights," he said with a teasing smile. I pulled my feet off of him and frowned. "You're never gonna let that go, are you?" "Nope, it was too funny," he replied. I chuckled at myself watching Naruto try to hold in his laughter. "Hey," I panicked, "I haven't exactly been the smoothest when it comes to men." "Yeah, I could see that," he said. "It's hard for me to believe you're not a virgin. You seem so inexperienced." I picked up a pillow from the couch and hit him with it. I then stood on my feet and put my hands on my hips. His comment bothered me for some reason. "Hey, just because I'm not a smooth talker like you doesn't mean I'm inexperienced," I replied, looking down at him. Naruto finished off the rest of his water and walked to the kitchen. I caught him holding back his laughter. "Wait, did he not believe me? What are you smiling about?" I said, following him. He filled his cup up with more water and shrugged his shoulders. "I don't know, it just seems like you are," he said, chuckling. Now I was mad for some reason. Fuming, in fact. It was probably the drinks, but how dare he? "Don't get mad, it's not a bad thing. You just seem like the type that still thinks pecks on the lips is making out," Naruto said, sipping his water. "And that's okay, some guys like." I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the alcohol. Maybe it was my anger. Maybe it was this strong attraction I felt for him all night. But all of a sudden I was on my tippy toes, knocking away the cup of water that was at Naruto's lips to the ground and replacing it with my own. Everything was hot. My hand gripped his t-shirt hard while my lips went to work against his. I was determined to make him remember this kiss, my mouth soft and controlled. Then when I was done, I took his bottom lip between my teeth and pulled on it just before I released. Time froze for an instant. "How was that?" I said with staggered breathing. "Was that inexperienced?" I looked up at him from between my lashes. I was expecting guilt to strike me and fill my body with anxiety. After all, I just crossed the boundaries of our friendship, but I felt nothing. Nothing but heat and desire. Naruto looked back at me and something changed in his eyes. They darkened and his breathing hitched. He was closer now and his hand sighed along my neck. "No," he said, taking a deep breath, "but now I can't stop myself." Before I could respond, his hands gripped my face, pulling me into a powerful kiss. My body reacted immediately, setting ablaze from head to toe. This kiss was certainly more experience, as much as I hated to admit it. It was passionate and wild and enticing. He sucked hard at my bottom lip and then his tongue poked at the seam of my lips, asking for permission to enter. Of course I granted him. Everything was happening so fast. I ran my tongue along his, making him hum in satisfaction. I felt us move backwards against my fridge. What were we doing? It's like we were holding back for so long and now we couldn't stop. My knees felt weak and tingly. Suddenly his hands were on my ass, pulling me against him. I moaned into his mouth, feeling his hardness press against me. If that didn't confirm mutual attraction, I didn't know what would. My hands were in his hair. He angled his face so he could deepen the kiss, but I needed to catch my breath, so I pulled away. Wait, I said, pressing my hands against his chest. We were drunk and not thinking straight. We couldn't do this. His hands went on my waist as he lifted me and placed me on my counter. He grabbed my legs and spread them, then pulled me against his heat once again. I let out an airy gasp and my skirt rode up, exposing my bare thighs. "Do you really want me to?" he said before attacking my neck with kisses. God, I wanted him so bad. Why did I want him to wait again? I hooked my hands at the end of his shirt and tore it off him, before I took his face in my hands and crashed my lips against his again. I felt him unzip my skirt, and the rest of the night was blurred, just like the line between our friendship. I could hear the sounds of the street enter my room, the engine of buses, the beeping of cars, and the chatter of people passing by. When I felt a cool breeze brush against my shoulders, I knew I had left my window open again. Some more sleep was all I wanted, but the noise from outside made my head want to split in two. I was definitely hungover. I groaned in frustration. I tried to sit up in my bed, but I realized there was some strong arms wrapped around my waist, preventing me from doing so. This feeling was so familiar. I whined, pretending to be annoyed. A smile creeped onto my face as I went back under the sheets. Our legs tangled and his face sought refuge in my neck. I slowly spun around to place a kiss on his lips and wake him up. I think it's time to get up. My eyes went as wide as saucers. Wait a minute. This face. This wasn't Kiba. Blonde hair and a sun-kissed whisker face met my eyes. I was fully awake now. I screamed at the top of my lungs, waking Naruto and causing him to begin screaming as well. I pushed myself off my bed and landed on the ground hard. The pain didn't even faze me. This had to be some dream. I rose to my feet to see Naruto clenching his bare chest. He looked at me like I had just grown an extra head. "What the hell are you screaming like that for?" he yelled at me from my bed. What are you doing in my bed?" I said, pointing a finger at him. I paid for my screaming as my head began to throb. My hands went to the sides of my forehead. Just thinking seemed to hurt. Naruto rose from the bed with both hands up like he was afraid I would shoot him or something. I became beet red as the sheet fell off his body, exposing his nakedness to me. I screamed again and turned away from him. "And why are you naked?" He quickly covered himself with a pillow. "My pillow, might I add. Will it stop screaming with my hangovers ultrasonic?" he said, approaching me. I covered both of my eyes with my hands, refusing to look at him. This was a dream. It had to be. That was right. Last night I drank and was with Naruto at a club, so it would be natural to dream of him. Nothing to worry about, it was just a weird dream. His hand was on my shoulder and I slowly peeked at him. "You're hungover too, so your memory is a little fuzzy." "Calm down," he said. He was right, I needed to be calm. It was a dream, nothing more. "Why, you're right, I just need to go back into my bed and close my eyes and everything will be okay," I said, walking back to my bed. "Huh," Naruto said, watching me. "Yep, this is obviously a dream. This can't really be happening. If I go back to sleep I will wake up and everything will be okay," I said, crawling back into bed. Naruto grabbed a fistful of his hair in frustration. "Hinata, this is not a dream." "Yes it is," I responded. "Now hush, I'm going back to sleep." I began to close my eyes when I felt the sheets being ripped off of me. Goosebumps scattered across my body. "Hey, what are you doing?" I yelled. "Cold," Naruto said, standing above me, crossing his arms. "That's because you're naked too." I looked down at myself in terror. He was right. Why was I naked? And why did I feel cold if this was a dream? This time he covered my mouth with his hand before I could scream again and leaned in close to me. We had sex last night, Hinata. We both were drunk and one thing led to another." He looked at me with guilty eyes. This time I didn't scream. Naruto looked just as uncomfortable as me and struggled to make eye contact. I felt tears well up in my eyes. He started. But I got up from the bed, grabbed the sheets from him and ran into the bathroom before he finished. He didn't bother chasing me. I sat on my bathroom floor and brought my knees to my chest. I was so confused. Why did we? How could this happen? I searched my mind as bits and pieces of last night's events came back in painful bursts. Well, I followed Tenten's advice, but something about all of this seemed wrong. Naruto was my friend, someone I had come to rely on, and now what would happen? Would the relationship be ruined too? Would I lose him? "I'm so stupid," I said to myself. Why did I drink so much? Another friendship destroyed by my selfish choices. "You're not stupid." I turned to my bathroom door. He was out there listening. I stood up and pressed my forehead against the door. "Don't beat yourself up. This was my fault too. I was the more sober of us. I could have stopped this, but I heard him slam his fist against the wall. I couldn't. Okay, he let out a breath. Maybe. I didn't want to. His words hit me hard in my gut. A mixture of fear and some weird elements of flattery filled me. Now I was even more confused about how I felt about this. What do you mean you didn't? You didn't want to?" I responded. The silence that fell was more painful than my migraine. I needed him to answer me. I needed to understand. "Hinata, you." Naruto struggled to finish his sentence. I've always been attracted to you." His confession made my body ache, but in all the right ways. He felt it too. From the first moment I met him I felt this strong attraction between us. I fought it like hell because I didn't want to ruin this friendship that was forming between us, and you're already going through your own struggles and so am I. I pressed my hands against the door and absorbed his words. But damn it, Hinata, you're so so beautiful, it's like magnetic, this feeling you give off, I can't explain it. I felt the same about him. I didn't dare to say that out loud though. I was drunk and those feelings just came out and fuck. Things got out of hand. I still want to be there for you. I don't want to become like that guy you've been chasing after in your eyes. I'm your friend. I don't want to hurt you. I hope I didn't, Naruto said. But you can't deny that there's something between us. My heart throbbed in my chest. He was right, damn it. So right, but I was scared of what could become of this. My heart couldn't take any more damage. I placed my hand on the doorknob and hesitated to open the door. If you never want to see me again, I get it. After all, I've just done what that guy has done to you, Naruto said. I opened the door just as he was ready to turn away. Thank God he had found his boxers. We both looked at each other as if we were seeing each other for the first time. Why, you don't have romantic feelings for me, right? I said bravely. Naruto's eyes widened at my question. And no, I don't, he replied. My question rattled him. I saw him blush for the first time ever and he scratched his head uncomfortably. Do you? And no, I quickly responded. Now I was blushing. My point is because there's no romantic feelings involved, it's not like me and the guy I've been telling you about, I explained, remembering Tenten's words. He's the man I love and I want to be with him, but things are complicated and what we did was, well, we just hooked up. I played with my fingers as I searched for the right words to say. You are also very important to me and I don't want our friendship to ever be tainted by this ever. I feel the same, Naruto replied. I have someone I want to be with too, and we were both acting on lust, which is perfectly natural. There was an awkward silence that fell over us. We both had came to an agreement that we were drunk and acted impulsively, yet there was something that was not being said from either of us. So, we said at the same time. We both were quiet and couldn't put our words together until Naruto, for the sake of both of us, addressed the big elephant in the room. This was all a big mistake, and isn't going to happen again, so let's just forget it. Okay, he said. There was silence yet again. Logically speaking, it was best we should. I mean, we both had people we wanted to be with, who we were chasing. I mean, we were doing great until now. We were each other's shoulders to cry on. Though there was no feelings, wasn't there something dangerous about this? Well, still I hesitated. This was huge, how could I forget this? Though my memory was hazy, I still could remember some things. Vividly too. Naruto's face expression changed. He smirked at me and tilted his head, awaiting my answer. Why do you seem so unsure, Hinata? He said, raising both his brows at me. My face reddened as he approached me. Both his arms went to either side of my head and I was pinned against the bathroom door. It's best we forget it, right? I tried my best to look him in the eye, but my eyes couldn't help but dart to his lips. I had my answer. It definitely wasn't the alcohol rooting up the attraction. No, this was wrong. We couldn't. He came closer to my face. I could feel my still very naked body react under the sheets I tied around myself. Or could we? One of his hands took my chin between his fingers. This isn't going to happen again. He was so close. One slight movement and he could kiss me. The look in his eyes told me he would if I asked for it. But I had to be smart. This wasn't realistic. Right? This won't happen again. It was a mistake and let's just pretend nothing happened, I finally said. He looked at me for a bit. I swore he looked disappointed for an instant before slowly releasing me. Good. This was all a big accident anyway. There was another awkward silence that fell between us before he spoke again. Now that that's out of the way, let's hit the shower, he said, reaching for my sheets. I quickly grabbed the handle of the door and slammed my bathroom door in his face before he could completely remove the sheet. I'd like to shower alone, thank you, I said from behind the door. Come on, I was joking. I heard him whine from outside the door as I locked it. I chuckled, yet there was an uneasiness in my stomach. After showering, I began my usual morning routine, which was making breakfast and listening to the radio. I decided to go with something a bit more traditional: fish, rice, and miso. As I cut the vegetables, I could see Naruto pop his head into the kitchen in the corner of my eye. Breakfast almost done. It smells so good, he said, standing next to me. He smelled good. I could still smell the reminiscence of my soap and shampoo on him. Something about him using my products made me feel oddly bubbly inside. Almost. Be patient. I made coffee. You can help yourself to some of that if you'd like, I responded. He grumbled. Coffee's great, but I need something solid. Please, I'm too young and pretty to die. I rolled my eyes before picking up a piece of fish from my pan with my chopsticks and popping it into his mouth. There, but that's all you're getting. It'll work for now. He leaned in like he was going to hug me, but stopped himself. I pretended not to notice before he went to sit on the couch like a good boy. Was this how things were going to be now? So awkward and stiff. Again, I tried to ignore it. It was nice having some activity in my apartment. I'd gotten so used to doing my regular routine alone that I'd forgotten what it was like to not be. It was a nice change, so nice in fact it made me the tiniest bit sad it would end after breakfast. I took out 2 plates from the cabinets and began to stare at them. Once Naruto left, it would go right back to being quiet. It wouldn't be like this forever. Things would work out between Kiba and me and everything would be okay. I kept acting like things would never get better. I mean, they'd work themselves out. Right. I placed 2 plates on the table and I could see Naruto look at them with starry eyes. I held a hand over my mouth to hold back my laugh. Don't even think of touching this until the miso is done, I threatened, waving my wooden spoon at him. Alright, put the weapon away, he said, waving both of his hands out in front of him. We both laughed. The awkwardness was slowly melting away. I was happy I had this goofball to keep me company. I had just started adding the vegetables to the soup when I heard a knock at my door. I froze in place. I looked over at Naruto to see he too had frozen. He looked at me, waiting to see what my next move would be. What were we freaking out about? It wasn't like we were still naked. Just two friends having breakfast, nothing to hide here. My shoulders relaxed and I pulled my hair out of its bun. Coming, I said, leaving the kitchen. Naruto just watched me from the couch, not making a sound. Standing on my toes, I looked through the peephole to see who it was. I nearly jumped out of my skin when I saw Kiba standing there. I wasted no time. I rushed over to Naruto and pulled him up by his arm. What's going on? He whispered as I rushed him into my bedroom. It's Kiba, I whispered back to him. Who? Naruto said as he entered the room. My guy, the one I've been telling you about, I said. Oh, shit, he replied, now beginning to panic as well. Stay in here and don't make a sound. Naruto nodded his head as I shut my bedroom door. It was as if I summoned him or something. Now standing in my living room, I began freaking out. Do I open the door? Of course I should. I missed him and I was just thinking about how I wish we could work something out. Even though that was the case, I still stood in front of my door with my hand glued on the knob like an idiot. There was knocking at the door again. Hinata, please open the door, he said. It was now or never. I fixed my hair and wiped my now sweaty palms on my apron. With a deep breath, I opened the door, trying my damned hardest to seem calm, like I wasn't happy to see him. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, his eyes sunken in and his face stubbled. My chest tightened. He looked pitiful, just like he did at the club. It was me who did this to him. My relaxed mask didn't last very long. Kiba, my voice cracked as guilt gripped my throat. I tried, I really did, to give you your space and let you be. But I didn't think you wouldn't talk to me for this long, he said. I stepped aside. Want to come in? I asked. In a zombie-like fashion, he entered my apartment, but he didn't move very far before he began rambling again. He didn't reply to my text or calls. Kiba, sit down, I said, pointing to my couch. When he didn't move, I took him by his arms and led him there. Then I saw you at that club and you just ran away. Once I got him to sit, I sat next to him on the couch. He sounded so lost and hurt. It was almost like I was the one who broke his heart. Sure, I was distant, but what did he expect after what happened? Kiba, do you hate me? He asked bluntly. He looked at me painfully, like he could break if I didn't choose my words correctly. Of course not. Kiba, I needed space. I looked at my knees, remembering our conversation. Why, you broke my heart. I needed to heal, but I don't hate you. Kiba's face relaxed a bit. He took my hands in his, causing me to look up at him. Do you miss me? How dare he ask that? I freed my fingers from his grasp. His rapid-fire questions and comments were irritating me and doing wonders for my headache. Kiba, what are you doing here? He looked slightly embarrassed and scratched his neck. You're saying a lot of confusing things. I played with the ends of my hair. Why does any of this matter to you? Sorry about that, Kiba said, suddenly nervous. I've been doing some thinking. His words messed with my heartbeat. More bad news. I couldn't take any more heartache. I was already trying my hardest to be strong now. This time apart has made me realize how much I need you with me, he said, looking me in my eyes. Okay, now I was definitely dreaming. He took my hands again and squeezed them tightly. I know I hurt you. Commitment isn't something I'm used to. I've been so afraid that I'll become like my dad and just end up cheating on the one girl who loves me the most and ruin everything. That's why I said what I said. It was easy just having all the things that a relationship would have with no strings attached, he said. For the first time in a long time, I could tell there was genuine sincerity in his words. Kiba didn't like being openly sensitive. He was tough. From a young age he was taught to be a man and keep his feelings all bottled up. He had to. Since his father had left him all those years ago, he had to be the man of the house. It touched me that he was finally opening up to me. I never would have guessed this would have been the reason for his single bachelor lifestyle. Kiba ran a hand through his messy hair and smiled bitterly. But in the end, I still did what my dad did and ran away when things got tough. I pushed you away and became stupid with fear. I'm so sorry, Hinata. I wasn't sure what to feel now. Sure, he was being sincere, but that didn't mean things would change. Was it okay to trust him again? Or would I end up picking up the pieces of my broken heart? Thank you, Kiba. He looked at me with surprise. Thank you for finally talking to me. For the longest I wasn't sure what you were thinking, but now I think I can understand, I clarified. His hard, sad demeanor crumbled and a smile spread on his face. Oh, how I missed that smile. It was as if life was placed back inside him. I could feel myself begin to smile too. I could tell his next words were something big. He rubbed his hands together and took a deep breath. Listen, Hinata, I'm not telling you to forgive me, but I was hoping we could try to make something work between us. I didn't say a word, I just looked back at him with wide eyes. There was drumming in my ears, and my limbs tingled with anxiety. What did he mean? He didn't mean what I thought he meant, did he? What do you mean? I finally asked. I mean, let's start dating, he blurted out. My stomach dropped. He did it. He had asked me out. This was something I had been waiting for since I was a kid. I could remember my younger self watching him from afar, hoping and praying that someday he would look at me and see something that wasn't little helpless Hinata. Kiba, my Kiba, finally after all these years wanted to date me. Yet, there was no butterflies, no excitement. Nothing. I was numb and I didn't know why. Hadn't I been missing him? Kiba's eyes scanned me, waiting for a reaction I wasn't sure would come. What was wrong with me? I placed my hand against my forehead, hoping I had a fever or something that could explain my lack of feeling. I get it, you're still hurt. Yeah, maybe that was it. I was still in pain from the rejection. I needed to heal. He was closer. I felt his hand against my cheek and my eyes met his. We can go slow. Take your time, think it over if you need to. I just really want to make this work between us. And me too, I found myself saying. His eyes softened, and before I could stop him, he was leaning over. I squeezed my eyes shut, expecting him to kiss my lips, but instead he pressed a soft kiss against my forehead. Why was I afraid of him kissing me? He pulled away and looked at me gently. I promise I won't hurt you like that again. He then got up and headed towards my door, leaving me on my couch with my thoughts. Before he left, he said some parting words. I'll be waiting. I was lost in thought after that. I didn't even hear Naruto open my bedroom door, or him yell that my soup was boiling over. I was so confused. What just happened was a moment I was waiting for years. How was it possible I felt more empty than I did before? Well, I managed to save the soup and you have managed to somehow turn into a statue, Naruto said, sitting next to me. Talk to me, what are you feeling? I'm sorry, I couldn't help but eavesdrop. This got my attention. I turned to him, and what happened prior to Kiba's arrival rushed into my head. I slapped my hands over my face as I felt my body heat up. What about Naruto and I? Silly me. I mean, what was there even to think about? We made a mistake and that was the end of that. Kiba didn't have to know. We're not even officially dating yet. Still, it felt like there was something still unresolved here. I don't know what I'm feeling. Everything is happening so fast, I said. With a bit of hesitation, Naruto put an arm around me and pulled me into his chest. Calm down, sweetheart, he said, stroking my head. It's okay to be lost, you've been through a lot. I felt myself relaxing in his arms. He always knew how to soothe me. He was able to say the right things in the right tone and got me to think clearly. He wants us to date, I said into Naruto's chest. I heard he responded. Do you want to? I was silent. For some reason I was hesitating. Okay, here's a better question. You love him. I looked up at him. I was surprised to see him looking back at me. I couldn't read what he was thinking at all. Why, yes. Then I think you should give this a shot, he responded. I separated from him and looked him in his eyes. He smiled back at me. His smile bothered me, another thing I didn't understand. You think so? Yeah. You two have had problems, but I think if you took things slow, things could work out well for you too. He stood up and walked towards the kitchen. Anyway, is there a way I can take my food to go? My chest hurt. He must have read the look on my face because he quickly explained himself. I forgot I had this job I had to do with my pal. He texted while I was in the room. I couldn't face him. Oh, okay, I said to the ground. I walked past him and into the kitchen. I didn't say a word. I just grabbed my containers and began packing food in them. I felt his eyes on me, drilling into the back of my head and making me sweat. His mouth opened to speak, but I was faster. Here you go. I shoved the bag full of breakfast into his gut and smiled as hard as I could. Yet, the way he looked at me didn't say he believed my smile. I'm sorry to leave you when you're feeling like this, he said, taking the bag from me. Our fingers grazed against each other, and I moved my hand back quickly like it burnt. It's okay, I understand you have to make money. Thanks anyway, I responded. My head was full with so many conflicting thoughts as I walked him to the door, some of which didn't want him to leave and some screaming for him to go so I could figure out what to do about us. We both stood at my door not moving, clearly with many things on our mind. Hinata, about earlier, I heard him say. I forced myself to look at him. I knew I couldn't escape this conversation. I know. I think I got too caught up in the moment, but my answer is still the same. Last night was a mistake, I replied, cutting him off. Naruto nodded and gave me a restrained smile. Good. Maybe that guy coming over was a sign. So we're in agreement then. Let's just forget about yesterday. Okay. I needed to respond. I didn't want to put any thoughts in his head. Yeah. It's for the best, I said, trying my best to leave doubt completely out of it. Naruto gave me another awkward smile. Especially now that things are working out between you and your guy. I don't want to ruin that, you know. Exactly, I said abruptly, and our friendship could have gotten really messy. He let out a laugh. Yeah, the alcohol was messing with our heads. It was stupid thinking about it. Yeah, really stupid. We both chuckled and then there was a heavy silence. Something about our conversation felt artificial. Okay, I'm gonna go now, he said, opening my door. I felt sad. I hated to see him go, but I really needed to clear my head anyway. Alright, take care. Before he left, we looked at each other last time. He then did something unexpected. Just like Kiba did, he leaned down and kissed me slowly on my cheek. As he pulled away slightly, our eyes met and something sparked deep inside of me. It was something I couldn't put words to. Our faces were close, none of us pulling away. What was this feeling? But, before I could figure it out, he walked out the door abruptly and slammed it shut. I was left staring at the door. Why did it feel like we would be seeing less of each other? Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification, so when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.